Hello, wonderful people. Welcome to Monkey DFIC, your story destination. We have an absolute treat for you today. What if Ace survived and became Pirate King? If you're enjoying these stories, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps the stories coming. With that said, let the adventure begin. Chapter 1, Rising from the Ashes. Ace couldn't breathe. Fire burned through his chest, not his own flames, but searing, unbearable agony. The world blurred around him. Luffy's screams echoed somewhere distant. Whitebeard's massive figure loomed above. Then darkness swallowed everything. Death should be quieter. That was Ace's first thought as consciousness crept back. A rhythmic beeping pierced the darkness. Pain radiated from his sternum with each heartbeat. His eyelids felt impossibly heavy, but he forced them open anyway. White ceiling. The smell of antiseptic. Bandages tight around his torso. "He's awake," someone shouted. Marco's face appeared above him, the normally lazy eyes wide with relief. "About damn time, you are." Ace tried to speak, but his throat burned. Marco pressed a cup of water to his lips. "Whitebeard," Ace finally croaked. Marco's expression crumbled. He didn't need to answer. Memories crashed through Ace's mind. Akainu's magma fist. The burning hole in his chest. Dying in his brother's arms. But he wasn't dead. Why wasn't he dead? How? The single word took all his strength. Marco sank into a chair beside the bed. "I got to you in time." "Barely. My flames, they can heal, you are. Not enough to fix everything, but enough to keep you alive until we could escape." Ace's hand drifted to his chest, feeling the thick bandages. "Luffy? Safe. Trafalgar Law got him out. Jinbei too." Relief washed through him, immediately followed by crushing guilt. Whitebeard had died saving him. So many others too. And for what? Because he'd been too prideful, too stubborn to walk away from Blackbeard. "Don't," Marco said sharply, reading his expression. "Pops made his choice. We all did." Ace turned away, unable to face him. "Where are we?" "Secret medical facility on one of our protected islands. Been here 3 weeks. Marines think you're dead, we need to keep it that way for now." 3 weeks. The world had moved on without him, reshaping itself around Whitebeard's death. And here he lay, a dead man breathing. "I need to see him," Ace said, trying to sit up. Fresh pain exploded through his chest, and he collapsed back with a groan. "You're not going anywhere, you are," Marco said, pushing him down with gentle firmness. "Rest. That's an order." Ace wanted to argue, but exhaustion dragged him back into darkness. Days blurred together. Ace drifted between fitful sleep and painful wakefulness. More of the surviving commanders visited, Vista with his mustache slightly singed from battle, Jozu missing an arm, Izo with fresh scars across his face. They told him bits and pieces about the aftermath, Blackbeard somehow stealing Whitebeard's devil fruit power, Shanks arriving to end the war, the world government spinning the story. Ace listened in silence, the weight of guilt crushing him more with each detail. A week after waking, he could finally stand. Marco found him wobbling before a mirror, staring at the massive scar on his chest, red, raw, and shaped like Akainu's fist. "Should have let me die," Ace murmured. Marco slammed him against the wall, surprisingly strong for his lanky frame. "You think that would have saved Pops? He was always going to Marineford, with or without you. He knew it was his last stand." Ace pushed him away. "Then I should have died with him. Is that what you think he wanted? For you to throw away the life he saved?" Marco's eyes blazed. "He called us his sons. A father protects his children. I never asked for that protection. You didn't have to, you are. That's what family does. Ace sank to the floor, energy spent. Marco crouched beside him. Whitebeard saw something in you worth dying for, Marco said quietly. Don't waste that. That night, alone in his room, Ace stared at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Akainu's fist coming toward him, felt the heat of magma. Then Luffy's face, devastated. And finally, Whitebeard's back, massive, scarred, standing between Ace and the world. What had Whitebeard seen in him? Roger's son? A powerful commander? Or just another lost kid looking for somewhere to belong? Whatever it was, Ace couldn't see it himself. 2 weeks after waking, Ace could walk the perimeter of the medical facility. His strength returned slowly, frustratingly. He practiced summoning his flames in secret, alarmed at how weak they flickered. Marco caught him one evening, collapsing after trying to produce a fire fist. Your body's still healing, Marco said, helping him up. The flames will come back. They feel different, Ace admitted. Like they're trying to change. Marco raised an eyebrow. Show me. Ace concentrated, calling up the familiar heat in his core. Orange flames licked along his arm, but at their edges danced something new, flickers of blue-white, hotter than anything he'd produced before. Interesting, Marco murmured. Your devil fruit might be evolving. Near-death experiences can trigger changes sometimes. Evolved how? Hard to say. Could be more heat, different properties. Marco shrugged. You'll figure it out, Yua. Later that night, Ace stood alone in the facility's small courtyard under the stars. He thought of Whitebeard's final words, declaring One Piece was real. He thought of Roger, his biological father, the first pirate king. 2 legacies. 2 shadows. Ace opened his palm and summoned a small flame. Orange and blue danced together, casting strange shadows across his face. He wasn't just Whitebeard's commander anymore. He wasn't just Roger's unwanted son. Who was he now? 3 weeks after waking, disaster struck. Ace was eating breakfast with Vista when the alarm blared. Marco burst through the door. Marines, he said grimly. They found us. Vista stood, hand on his sword. How many? 2 battleships. Vice Admiral leading them. Ace pushed to his feet. I can fight. Marco looked ready to argue, then nodded sharply. Stay behind us. If things go bad, you slip away. That's non-negotiable. They hurried through the facility. Medical staff were already evacuating through underground passages. Outside, they could see marine ships approaching the island's small harbor. They must have traced our supply ships, Vista muttered. Doesn't matter now, Marco said. They haven't spotted the escape routes on the north side. If we hold them here, everyone else gets away. Ace gripped Marco's shoulder. Let me help. You're at half strength at best. Then I'll give everything I've got. Marco studied him, then nodded once. They positioned themselves at the tree line above the harbor. The marine ships docked, disgorging white-uniformed soldiers. At their head strode a tall man with a shock of red hair, Vice Admiral Bastille. This won't be easy, Vista murmured. The Marines marched toward the facility, unaware of the pirates waiting above them. Marco transformed, brilliant blue flames shaping into the Phoenix's wings. Now, he called, diving toward the Marine ranks. Vista leapt after him, swords flashing. Ace took a deep breath and called his flames. They answered, weaker than before, but eager. He jumped, propelling himself on jets of fire. The sensation was strange, his flames running hotter than he remembered, more focused. He landed among the startled Marines and let instinct guide him. Fire fist, he shouted, punching toward a cluster of enemies. The attack that emerged wasn't the usual column of flame. Instead, a concentrated blast erupted from his fist, blue-white at its core, exploding on impact. Marines flew in all directions. Ace stared at his smoking fist in surprise. No time to think about it. More Marines charged him. He ducked under a sword, swept another attacker's legs, and unleashed another blast of fire, smaller this time, more controlled. Across the battlefield, Marco soared above, dropping into devastating diving attacks. Vista's swords created a whirlwind of steel no Marine could penetrate. For a moment, Ace felt the old rhythm of battle, the exhilarating confidence of fighting alongside his crewmates. Then reality crashed back as fatigue hit him like a physical blow. His chest wound throbbed. His flames flickered. Vice Admiral Bastille spotted him and charged, massive sword raised. "Port gas D, Ace," he bellowed. "You're supposed to be dead." Ace barely dodged the downward slash. "Sorry to disappoint." He summoned more flames, but they sputtered weakly. Bastille pressed forward, each swing coming closer. Ace felt his strength failing. The weeks of recovery meant nothing in the face of a vice admiral's relentless assault. "You should have stayed dead," Bastille said, raising his sword for a final blow. Ace knew he couldn't dodge again. Instead, he reached deep inside, to the core of his power, and pulled everything he had left. Something snapped. Power flooded him, different than before, hotter, wilder. His entire body ignited, not in his usual controlled flames, but in a swirling inferno of orange and blue-white fire. Flame Emperor. The name came unbidden to his lips. Fire exploded outward in a perfect circle, washing over Bastille and every Marine within 50 feet. The Vice Admiral screamed as his uniform ignited, his sword glowing red-hot in his hands. When the flames cleared, Bastille lay unconscious, his body severely burned but alive. The other Marines nearby were in similar states. Ace swayed on his feet, darkness creeping at the edges of his vision. Marco landed beside him, catching him before he fell. "What the hell was that?" Marco asked, supporting Ace's weight. "No idea," Ace gasped. "New trick." Vista joined them, breathing hard. Whatever it was, it turned the tide. But more will come when these don't report back. Marco nodded grimly. "We need to move. Now." They fled north, to a hidden cove where a small ship waited. The few remaining medical staff had already boarded. Vista helped Ace aboard while Marco did a final sweep for pursuers. Ace collapsed on the deck, utterly spent. The new power had taken everything he had. "That was reckless," Vista said, though his tone held admiration. "Worked, didn't it?" Ace managed a weak grin. Marco returned, transforming back from his phoenix form. "Clear for now, but we need to get moving." As they cast off, Ace watched the island recede, another home lost. The story of his life. "What now?" he asked as Marco sat beside him. "We've been discussing that," Marco said, sharing a look with Vista. "The crew is scattered. Many went back to territories they came from. Some are forming smaller groups. We're regrouping." Ace asked hopefully. Marco shook his head. "The Whitebeard pirates died with Pops, you are." The words hit harder than Ace expected. Of course. Without Whitebeard, there was no crew, just orphans drifting without their father. "So we just give up." "Not give up," Vista said. "Move forward. Differently." Ace looked between them. "What does that mean for me?" "That's up to you," Marco said. "But there's something you should know. Before Marineford, Pops had a conversation with me. He said if anything happened to him, we shouldn't try to maintain the crew as it was. He wanted us to disband. He wanted us to find our own paths," Marco corrected. "He said the era was changing, and we would need to change with it." Ace stared out at the darkening horizon. "Did he say anything about me?" Marco's expression softened. "He said you had the potential to surpass both him and Roger. That your fire burned brighter than you knew." Ace closed his eyes, feeling the weight of those words. What will you do? He asked Marco. Protect what territories I can. Keep Pop's legacy alive in my own way. Vista nodded. I have similar plans. Others will do the same. Ace thought about his options. Return to Luffy. Hide away until he was stronger. Neither felt right. Take me to Whitebeard's grave, he said finally. I need to say goodbye. The island was remote, accessible only to those who knew its location. A single grave stood on the cliff face, marked by Whitebeard's massive bicento and white captain's coat. Flowers and sake bottles surrounded it, offerings from crew members who had already made the pilgrimage. Ace approached alone, legs still weak from his battle. The grave loomed over him, just as Whitebeard himself had once done. He knelt on the grass, placing a bottle of sake he'd brought from the ship. I'm sorry, he whispered. It should have been me. Wind rustled through the trees, the only answer. I don't know what to do now, Ace continued. Everyone's scattering. Your crew, your family, it's falling apart without you. He uncorked the sake bottle, poured a cup for Whitebeard, then one for himself. Marco says you thought I could surpass you. And Roger. He laughed bitterly. I couldn't even beat Blackbeard. I'm the reason you died. Ace drank his sake, then refilled the cup. What am I supposed to do with this second chance? Where do I go from here? As he sat in silence, memories washed over him. The day Whitebeard had offered him a place in his crew. His first victory as 2nd Division commander. Countless nights drinking and celebrating with his division. Whitebeard calling him son, despite knowing whose blood ran in his veins. Whitebeard had given him a home when he'd never had one before. A purpose. A family. You called One Piece real with your last breath, Ace said softly. Was that a message? For Luffy. For me. He thought about Roger's legacy, the treasure that had launched a new era of piracy. The title of Pirate King that Luffy chased so determinedly. I never wanted Roger's legacy, Ace murmured. But yours? That I would carry proudly. The idea sparked something in him. Whitebeard's territories needed protection. His allies needed leadership. His name needed to live on. But not as a pale imitation. Not as a remnant of what was. Ace stood, feeling stronger than he had since waking in that medical facility. I know what I have to do, he said to the grave. I'll protect what you built, but in my own way. And I'll find One Piece, not for Roger's legacy, but for yours. To prove your last words true. To show the world what you believed in. He raised his sake cup in a final toast. I'm going to become Pirate King. Not as Roger's son. Not even as your commander. But as the man you helped me become. As he drank, the setting sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light across the grave. For a moment, Ace could almost feel Whitebeard's approving laughter. Back on the ship, Marco found Ace on the bow, watching the island recede behind them. Feel better? Marco asked, leaning against the railing beside him. I know what I'm going to do, Ace said. Let's hear it. I'm going after One Piece. Marco raised an eyebrow but didn't look surprised. Following your brother's dream now? No. Making my own. Ace turned to face him. Whitebeard believed in One Piece enough to declare it real with his dying breath. I'm going to honor that by finding it. That's a tall order, Yua. The road poneglyphs, the New World territories, the Marines, Blackbeard, I know. Ace grinned, feeling alive for the first time since Marineford. That's why I need a crew. Marco laughed softly. You asking me to join up, Captain Ace? Would you? The Phoenix shook his head. My path lies elsewhere. I need to protect what islands I can, keep Whitebeard's name alive in my own way. Ace nodded, not surprised but still disappointed. Vista. He's heading back to his homeland. Most of the commanders have their own plans. So I start fresh, Ace said, looking toward the horizon. Build something new. Marco studied him curiously. Why the change? You never showed interest in One Piece before. Ace touched the scar on his chest. I died, Marco. Or close enough. When you get a second chance like that, you start seeing things differently. And what do you see now? That both Whitebeard and Roger left legacies bigger than themselves. One through family, one through treasure. I want to connect those legacies. Find One Piece not to conquer the world, but to protect the freedom Whitebeard valued. Marco smiled, a rare expression of genuine warmth. Pops would be proud to hear that. Will you help me get started? Ace asked. I need a ship, supplies. Information about what's happened while I was recovering. I can do that much, Marco agreed. I know a shipwright who owes me a favor. And there's an island not far from here where you can lie low while regaining your strength. And then? And then you become Pirate King, Marco said simply. If anyone can do it, it's you. For the first time since waking in that hospital bed, Ace felt the weight of guilt lifting. In its place grew something new, purpose. The island Marco directed them to was small, practically unmarked on most maps. A single village nestled between mountains and sea, populated by people who didn't ask questions of strangers. Marco left to arrange for Ace's ship while Ace and Vista remained behind to continue Ace's recovery. Each morning, Ace trained on the beach, pushing his evolved powers to understand their new limits. The blue-white flames burned hotter than his previous fire, requiring more precision but delivering devastating results. He could now shape his flames with finer control, creating constructs beyond simple fireballs, whips, shields, even crude weapons. Most intriguing was his discovery that the new flames could briefly phase through certain materials, allowing him to bypass basic defenses. That would prove useful against hockey users who expected to simply block his attacks. One morning, a month after arriving on the island, Ace sat cross-legged on the beach, trying to master a particularly tricky flame technique, when Vista approached. Message from Marco, Vista said, holding up a Den Den Mushi. Your ship is ready. Ace took the snail phone. Marco? You there? I'm here, you are, came the familiar lazy drawl. Found you something special. Not big, but fast and sturdy. Perfect for starting out. When can I see it? 3 days. Northern Harbor. And Ace? Your death has been officially confirmed by Marine HQ, Sengoku made the announcement yesterday. Ace grinned. Perfect. Being dead will make things easier. For now, Marco cautioned. Once you start making waves again, they'll figure it out. By then, I'll be ready for them. After disconnecting, Ace turned to Vista. Will you come with me to see the ship? Vista stroked his mustache thoughtfully. I'll see you off, but then I must depart. My homeland needs me. Ace nodded, understanding but still feeling the pang of separation. One by one, his former family was scattering to the winds. 3 days later, they stood at the northern harbor as a sleek vessel approached. Smaller than the massive Moby Dick, it nonetheless had elegant lines that suggested both speed and durability. Black sails with subtle flame patterns caught the wind. Marco stood at the helm, guiding it to dock. Once secured, he jumped down to join them. Meet the Phoenix Fawn, he said with unusual pride. Modified gunboat design. Small crew requirement, reinforced hull, hidden compartments. She'll serve you well. Ace walked along the dock, admiring the ship. She's perfect. How did you get her so quickly? Called in some favors. The shipwright owed Whitebeard his life. Marco handed Ace a logbook. Navigation charts, safe harbors, supply caches, everything you'll need to get started. Ace took the book, throat suddenly tight. Thank you. One more thing, Marco said, producing a small chest. Your personal effects from the Moby Dick. And some funds to get you started. The weight of the moment pressed on Ace. This was really happening, the final separation from his old life. Vista stepped forward, extending his hand. This is where we part ways, Commander, Captain Ace. Ace ignored the hand and pulled Vista into a hug. Thank you. For everything. Make Whitebeard proud, Vista said simply. When Ace turned to Marco, the Phoenix was already holding out his hand. Ace clasped it firmly. Don't die again, Marco said with a faint smile. It was too much trouble saving you the first time. No promises, Ace grinned. After loading his few belongings, Ace stood on the deck of his new ship, watching as Marco and Vista grew smaller on the dock. A chapter of his life was ending. Another beginning. He unfurled the black sails and set course for the open sea. That night, alone on his ship, Ace studied the maps Marco had provided. The new world spread before him, vast and dangerous. Territories once protected by Whitebeard now vulnerable. Islands where he might find potential crew members. Locations to avoid, marine strongholds, territories claimed by other emperors. And somewhere out there, Blackbeard. Rage still burned when Ace thought of Teach. The traitor who had set everything in motion. Who had somehow stolen Whitebeard's devil fruit power. Who now hunted devil fruit users across the seas. Revenge tempted him. Find Blackbeard. Finish what he'd started on Bonero Island. But that path had led to disaster once before. No, Ace decided, closing the map. Blackbeard would come later. First, he needed a crew. Strength. Resources. He pulled out the chest Marco had given him. Inside lay his old orange hat, somewhat battered but intact. His knife. A few personal trinkets. And at the bottom, a folded piece of paper. Ace opened it to find Whitebeard's symbol, the crossbones mustache that had adorned the Moby Dick's flag. Attached was a note in Marco's handwriting, make your own mark, but never forget where you came from. Ace ran his fingers over the symbol, then carefully set it aside. Marco was right. He needed his own mark, his own flag. Something that represented both his past and his future. Taking out a piece of paper, Ace began to sketch. Crossbones, of course. But instead of a skull, a spade symbol, his old spade pirate's mark. And behind it, flames rising like a crown. A pirate king born from fire. Dawn found Ace standing at the helm, watching the sun rise over endless blue. For the first time since waking in that hospital bed, he felt truly alive. The weight of guilt remained, but now it drove him forward instead of holding him back. He thought of Luffy, still chasing his own dream of becoming Pirate King. They were rivals now, though Luffy didn't know it yet. The thought made Ace smile. His little brother wouldn't make it easy for him. Ace called his flames, watching the now familiar dance of orange and blue-white fire across his palm. His power, evolved through near death. Changed, just as he had been changed. Ready or not, world, he said to the rising sun, here comes the next Pirate King. News traveled fast across the Grand Line, carried by gulls and whispers and the mysterious network that connected pirates everywhere. In a bar on a winter island, a group of former Whitebeard allies raised glasses to rumors of a fire-wielding pirate in a black-sailed ship. In Marine headquarters, Fleet Admiral Sengoku frowned at reports of unusual fire damage to a patrol ship, damage inconsistent with known pirates. In the Revolutionary Army's hidden base, Sabo read a newspaper article about a mysterious attack on a celestial dragon's convoy and smiled, recognizing his brother's handiwork. On the Thousand Sunny, Luffy stared at a wanted poster that had blown aboard during a storm, a shadowy figure wreathed in flames, face unclear, bounty listed as unknown. Something about the stance seemed familiar, but he couldn't place it. And in his growing fortress on Hakanosu Island, Marshal D. Teach studied reports of a new player in the new world, one whose fire attacks left distinctive burns. Zihahaha, Blackbeard laughed, raising a cherry pie in toast. Welcome back, Commander Ace. I've been expecting you. 2 months after setting sail on the Phoenix Fong, Ace docked at a bustling port island on the fringes of the New World. His strength had fully returned, his new powers honed through daily practice. But a captain needed a crew, and so far, he sailed alone. The island, Trader's Haven, served as neutral ground for pirates, merchants, and adventurers of all stripes. If anywhere would yield potential crewmates, this would be it. Ace pulled his hood low as he wandered the dockside taverns. His death provided useful anonymity, but caution remained wise. Marines might believe Portgas D. Ace died at Marineford, but enough people had seen him since to create whispers. In the third tavern, Ace found what he sought, a recruitment board where captains posted notices seeking crew. He scanned the offerings: gunners wanted, navigators needed, cook seeking ship. He was contemplating how to word his own notice when a commotion erupted outside. Shouts and crashes drew patrons to the windows. Ace pushed through for a better look. In the street, a woman battled 6 men in matching uniforms, bounty hunters, judging by their gear. She wielded a staff with remarkable skill, moving with fluid grace despite being outnumbered. "Damn sea witch," one hunter shouted, lunging with a sword. The woman pivoted, smacking him across the face with her staff. "I told you, I'm a meteorologist, not a witch." Another hunter pulled a pistol. Without thinking, Ace flicked a finger, sending a tiny spark that heated the gun's barrel just enough to make the man yelp and drop it. The woman's eyes flicked to Ace, narrowing with curiosity before returning to her opponents. "Last chance," she called. "Leave me alone or things get stormy." The hunters laughed, circling her. The woman sighed, looking genuinely disappointed in their decision. She raised her staff, and Ace noticed for the first time the strange blue stone embedded in its tip. Weather art, localized shower. The stone glowed. Dark clouds materialized directly above the hunters, unleashing a downpour so intense they staggered under its force. While they were blinded by water, the woman delivered precise strikes to pressure points, dropping 3 men before the others realized what was happening. Impressive, Ace thought. Weather manipulation wasn't common, especially with such precision. The remaining hunters regrouped, drawing weapons. Before they could attack, Ace stepped into the street. 6 against 1 seems unfair, he said, hands in his pockets. "Mind your business, stranger," one hunter snarled. "I'm making it my business." Ace nodded to the woman. "Need a hand?" She twirled her staff, sending droplets flying. "I had it under control, but sure. Feel free to jump in." Ace grinned and released just enough heat to make the air around him shimmer. The hunters hesitated, sensing danger. "That's," one began, eyes widening in recognition. Ace didn't let him finish. A sweep of his hand sent a wave of flame across the street, not to burn but to herd the hunters backward. They scrambled away from the fire, right into the woman's range. She moved like lightning, staff blurring. In seconds, all 6 hunters lay groaning on the cobblestones. "Nice teamwork," she said, not even breathing hard. "You did all the work," Ace replied with a laugh. "I just provided the special effects." She studied him openly now, taking in his features with intelligent eyes. "Fire powers. Face not seen in public recently. You're supposed to be dead, aren't you?" Ace tensed, ready to disappear if necessary. "Depends who's asking." "Sophia," she said simply. "Meteorologist, navigator, and currently between ships." "Why were they after you?" She twirled her staff again. "Some people don't appreciate accurate weather forecasts that ruin their ambush plans." Ace laughed, liking her immediately. "Let me buy you a drink, Sophia the meteorologist. I'm in the market for a navigator." Over rum in a quieter tavern, Sophia proved to be exactly what Ace needed, not just a skilled navigator but a weather expert whose powers complemented his own. The staff channels it, she explained, showing him the blue stone. Weather barrel. Rare mineral that responds to atmospheric pressure. I can't create weather from nothing, but I can manipulate what's already in the air. Useful in the New World, Ace noted, thinking of the region's unpredictable climate patterns. Saved my last ship 8 times, she agreed. Until the captain decided my skills would be better used robbing passenger vessels. Her expression darkened. I don't target civilians. Neither do I. She studied him over her glass. So, where are you sailing to, not dead fireman? Ace considered how much to reveal. He needed crew members he could trust completely. Might as well start with honesty. I'm going after One Piece, he said quietly. Sophia blinked, then laughed. Ambitious. Half the pirates in the New World claim the same. I'm not just claiming it. Something in his tone made her lean forward. You're serious. Dead serious. Why you? What makes you different from every other would-be king? Ace ignited a small flame above his palm, orange fire swirling with blue-white. I died and came back. Changes your perspective. Makes you see what's worth fighting for. Sophia watched the flames dance. And what is worth fighting for, in your view? Freedom. Real freedom. Not just doing whatever you want, but creating a world where people can live without fear. Ace closed his fist, extinguishing the fire. Whitebeard protected his territories. Gave people safety to live as they chose. I want to do the same, but bigger. So not conquest for conquest's sake. Never that. Sophia drummed her fingers on the table, thinking. What's your plan? Routes? Crew size? Ship capabilities? I have a ship, small but fast. As for crew. Ace shrugged. Quality over quantity. I need people I can trust absolutely. People with skills and conviction. And how do you plan to find One Piece? The road poneglyphs, one step at a time, Ace said. First, build a core crew. Then strengthen our position in the New World. The rest will follow. Sophia studied him with shrewd eyes. You know, most captains lead with, join me and get rich, or join me and become famous. I'm offering something harder, Ace admitted. Probably dangerous. Definitely challenging. But meaningful. She smiled slowly. I like challenges. She extended her hand. I'm in, Captain. Ace clasped her hand, feeling the first piece fall into place. Welcome aboard the Phoenix Fawn. By nightfall, Ace had gained not just a navigator but a ship's doctor as well. Dr. Rishi had been treating Sophia's minor injuries from the bounty hunter encounter when Ace mentioned needing a medical expert. My clinic was destroyed last month, Rishi said matter-of-factly, a small man with gold-rimmed glasses and steady hands. Marine inspection that got out of hand when they found pirate patients inside. You treat everyone? Ace asked. Illness and injury don't check which flag you sail under, Rishi replied simply. The sea is dangerous enough without denying care to those who need it. Ace liked him immediately. The pay isn't guaranteed. The danger is. Rishi smiled, revealing a gold tooth. Young man, I've been patching up pirates for 30 years. Danger and I are old friends. And so the crew of the Phoenix Fawn numbered 3. They sailed the next morning, Sophia immediately taking charge of navigation with impressive confidence. Her weather predictions proved uncannily accurate, allowing them to avoid a storm system that trapped several marine vessels. As they sailed deeper into the New World, Ace shared his immediate plan: locate a former Whitebeard territory that had fallen into chaos, establish it as their base, and begin building their reputation. Reputation for what? Rishi asked, carefully organizing his medical supplies in the small infirmary. Protection, Ace said. Like Whitebeard did, but with my own approach. These islands are vulnerable now. Other crews are moving in, treating people like property. We change that. Sophia studied their course. That'll put us in direct conflict with some powerful players. Good, Ace said, flames flickering briefly across his shoulders. Fastest way to make our mark. 5 days later, they approached Maiden's Heart, an island famous for its shipbuilding facilities. Once under Whitebeard's protection, it now suffered under the boot of the Blood-Tide pirates, a crew that had rushed to fill the power vacuum. Ace stood at the bow as the island came into view. Sophia joined him, her staff tapping thoughtfully against the deck. Their captain is Sawback Reed, she said. Bounty of 320 million. Uses a chain-blade weapon. 40-ship fleet, though most are scattered across the region. Ace raised an eyebrow. You've done your research. Navigator's job includes intelligence, she replied with a slight smile. Currently, he has 3 ships docked. Maybe 200 men on the island. Odds I can handle, Ace said confidently. Sophia corrected. Odds we can handle. From the wheelhouse, Rishi called, I've prepared the infirmary for potential casualties. Ace nodded, grateful for their commitment despite having joined so recently. We're not here for slaughter. Just to send a message. As they approached the harbor, Ace unfurled a flag from the mainmast, his new symbol of the flaming spade rising above crossed bones. The message was clear, a new power had arrived. Guards on the docks noticed their approach, pointing and shouting. Within minutes, pirates swarmed the waterfront. Subtle entrance, Sophia noted dryly. Ace grinned. Not trying to be subtle. He stepped onto the bow rail, drawing every eye. With deliberate showmanship, he ignited his entire body, flames roaring around him in a display visible across the harbor. My name is Portgas D. Ace, he shouted, his voice carrying over the water. This island is now under my protection. Blood-Tide pirates, leave peacefully or leave in pieces. The declaration hung in the air. Then laughter erupted from the assembled pirates. Ace is dead, someone shouted. You're just some copycat with a Logia fruit. Ace's smile turned dangerous. Want to test that theory? He leapt from the ship, propelling himself on jets of flame across the harbor. Landing among the startled pirates, he released a controlled burst of fire that knocked down the front row without causing serious burns. Last chance, he offered, flames dancing along his arms. A massive man pushed through the crowd, Sawback Reed himself, chainblade draped across his shoulders. His face was a map of scars, eyes small and cruel. If you were really Ace, you'd be dead, Reed growled. Akainu put a hole through his chest. Everyone saw it. Ace unbuttoned his shirt, revealing the massive circular scar where magma had nearly ended him. He tried. Reed's eyes widened momentarily before narrowing in calculation. Even if you are Ace, you're not under Whitebeard's flag anymore. You're nobody. This island is mine. Not anymore. Reed swung his chainblade with surprising speed for his size. Ace dissolved into flames, letting the weapon pass harmlessly through his body. As he reformed, he delivered a fire-enhanced punch to Reed's stomach. The bigger man staggered but didn't fall. Logia tricks won't save you. Not against this. The chainblade took on a black sheen, armament hockey. Ace smiled. This might be interesting after all. Reed attacked again, the hockey-infused weapon capable of striking Ace's true body. Ace dodged instead of dispersing, studying his opponent's movement patterns. Reed was strong but predictable, each swing telegraphed by a slight shift in weight. After evading 3 more attacks, Ace saw his opening. As Reed wound up for a powerful swing, Ace darted inside his guard. Fire fist. The concentrated blast caught Reed point blank. The big man flew backward, crashing through the wall of a warehouse. His chain blade clattered to the dock. Ace turned to the stunned blood-tide pirates. Anyone else want to argue ownership? For a moment, no one moved. Then, with a roar, they charged en masse. Ace sighed. Hard way it is. From the Phoenix Fong, Sophia raised her staff. Weather art, wind tunnel. A focused gale blasted through the charging pirates, scattering them like leaves. Those who kept their footing met Ace's flames, controlled bursts that disabled without killing. Within minutes, most of the blood-tide pirates were retreating to their ships. Those who stood their ground quickly fell to Ace's superior combat skills. From the wreckage of the warehouse, Reed emerged, bloody but still dangerous. This isn't over, fake Ace. The blood-tide has allies, powerful allies. Ace walked calmly toward him. Deliver a message to those allies. Tell them Portgas D. Ace is back, and he's claiming Whitebeard's legacy his own way. Anyone who abuses these islands answers to me. Reed spat blood. You'll die for real this time. Ace's expression hardened. I've already died once. Didn't take. Now get on your ship and leave before I change my mind about letting you go. The defeated captain glared, but self-preservation won out. He backed away, gesturing for his remaining men to retreat. As the blood-tide ships prepared to depart, the people of Maiden's Heart cautiously emerged from hiding. They gathered at a distance, watching Ace with uncertainty. An elderly woman stepped forward, leaning on a walking stick. Are you truly Whitebeard's commander? Ace turned to her, extinguishing his flames. I was. Now I sail under my own flag. Why help us? What do you want in return? Protection for Alliance, Ace said honestly. This island builds ships. We'll need those. But mostly, I'm here because Whitebeard would have wanted these islands kept safe. The woman studied him skeptically. Blood-tide will return with reinforcements. Let them, Ace said. I'll be ready. As word spread that Ace had driven away the blood-tide, more islanders gathered. Wariness gave way to cautious hope. When Ace announced his intention to establish a base on the island while respecting their autonomy, relief rippled through the crowd. By sunset, the Phoenix Fong had been given an honored berth in the harbor. Shipwrights offered to enhance the vessel. Merchants brought supplies. The island's leaders requested a meeting to formalize their alliance. Ace sat with Sophia and Rishi on the deck, watching the island come alive with celebration. Not bad for your first territory, Captain, Sophia said, raising a glass of local wine. One down, Ace replied, staring at the darkening horizon. Many more to go. You made it look easy, Rishi observed. But the next island won't be. Word will spread. I'm counting on it, Ace said. The more they know we're coming, the more they'll fear us. Sophia studied him curiously. Is that what you want? To be feared? Ace shook his head. Not feared. Respected. There's a difference. As night fell over their first claimed territory, Ace thought of the long road ahead. One small island was just the beginning. The true challenges, Blackbeard, the Marines, the other emperors, still loomed. But for the first time since awakening from death's doorstep, Ace felt truly certain of his path. The fire inside him burned with newfound purpose, illuminating the way forward. The next pirate king had made his first move. Chapter 2, New Flames. Old enemies. 6 months after claiming Maiden's Heart as his first territory, Ace stood at the helm of the Phoenix Fong, watching the sunrise paint the horizon in shades of gold and crimson. The ship had changed during their time on the island, reinforced with specialized metal along the hull, expanded to accommodate a growing crew, and enhanced with cutting-edge navigation equipment. Captain, Sophia called from the navigation deck, storm system approaching from the northeast. Minor, but it'll slow our approach to Crossroads Island. Ace nodded. Can you work around it? Sophia twirled her weather staff, the blue beryl stone at its tip glowing softly. I could redirect the outer bands, give us a cleaner passage. Would save us about 6 hours. Do it. I want to reach Crossroads by nightfall. As Sophia manipulated the weather patterns ahead, Ace reflected on their journey so far. After securing Maiden's Heart, word had spread quickly about a supposedly dead Whitebeard commander reclaiming territories. 3 more islands had willingly joined their alliance, forming the foundation of what the newspapers now called Ace's Spade Domain. Dr. Rishi approached, hands tucked into his lab coat pockets. The new recruits are settling in well. That swordsman we picked up on Farron Isle has already appointed himself head of security. Ace laughed. Kai does like taking charge. Should I be concerned about his enthusiasm? Nah. He's passionate, not power-hungry. Besides, we need people who take initiative. The Phoenix Fong now carried a crew of 15, small by New World standards, but each member carefully selected for both skill and character. Ace had learned from both Whitebeard and his own mistakes. This time, he chose his family with open eyes. There's something else, Rishi said, voice dropping. Reports from our contacts on Maiden's Heart. Blood-Tide pirates have been spotted in nearby waters, accompanied by a ship flying Blackbeard's flag. Ace's expression darkened. They're getting bolder. That's not all. Marine activity has increased throughout the region. Not standard patrols either, specialized units. Looking for me, no doubt. Ace stared at the horizon. The world government can't allow dead pirates to resurrect themselves. Bad for business. Rishi pushed his glasses up. Are you concerned? No. I'm counting on it. Ace grinned. Can't become pirate king by hiding in the shadows. Sophia joined them, her weather manipulation complete. Course is clear, Captain. We'll reach Crossroads Island by sunset. Perfect. Ace turned to his small crew, raising his voice. Listen up. Crossroads is neutral territory, a hub for information, recruitment, and trade. Every major player has eyes and ears there. Until now, we've been building our foundation quietly, but that changes today. The crew gathered closer, their attention fixed on their captain. Today, we announce ourselves to the new world properly. The Spade Dominion isn't just reclaiming Whitebeard's territories, we're establishing our own path to one piece. Kai, the muscular swordsman with tribal tattoos covering his arms, stepped forward. You expecting trouble, Captain? I'm counting on it. Ace's grin turned wolfish. Crossroads is where alliances are formed and broken, where crews prove their worth. It's also where Blackbeard's been recruiting, and I aim to disrupt that. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Bold move. His commanders won't take that lightly. Good. Flames flickered briefly across Ace's shoulders. Time they remembered who they're dealing with. Crossroads Island lived up to its name, a sprawling port city where ships from across the Grand Line dock to trade, recruit, and gather intelligence. Unlike Navy-controlled ports, Crossroads operated under the tenuous protection of a council representing various pirate factions, merchant guilds, and local powers. No single crew controlled it, making it valuable neutral ground. As the Phoenix Fong docked, Ace surveyed the bustling harbor. Ships of all sizes crowded the piers, flying flags from crews both famous and obscure. He spotted at least 3 vessels bearing variations of Blackbeard's flag, not the man's personal ship, but affiliated crews. Remember the plan, Ace told his gathered officers. Sophia, you and Rishi gather information, supply chains, territory shifts, marine movements. Kai, take Jax and Lin to scout potential recruits. I'll handle the council notification personally. Sophia adjusted her staff, now disguised as a simple walking stick. And if we encounter Blackbeard's people? Don't engage unless necessary. We're making our presence known, not starting a war. Not yet. The crew dispersed into the crowded port, each with their assigned tasks. Ace pulled his distinctive orange hat lower, not quite hiding his face but providing enough shadow to avoid immediate recognition. His death at Marineford still provided some anonymity, though that advantage diminished with each territory he claimed. Ace made his way through the winding streets of Crossroads, noting how the atmosphere had changed since his last visit years ago. Tension hung in the air, visible in the way crews kept hands near weapons and conversations hushed as strangers passed. The power vacuum left by Whitebeard's death had rippled throughout the pirate world, leaving uncertainty in its wake. The council hall stood at the city's center, a circular building with entrances facing each cardinal direction, symbolizing its neutrality. Guards from different factions flanked each doorway, their expressions professionally blank as Ace approached. "State your business," the eastern entrance guard demanded, hand resting on his sword hilt. "Portgas D. Ace, captain of the Spade Dominion, here to register my crew's presence as per Crossroads protocol." The guard's eyes widened slightly, the only indication of surprise. "Ace died at Marineford. Reports of my death were." Ace let a small flame dance across his fingertips, premature. After a brief consultation, the guards allowed him entry. Inside, the circular chamber housed a massive round table where representatives from major factions conducted business. Currently, only 3 seats were occupied, a merchant guild representative, a local power broker, and a woman wearing a coat that marked her as a former Marine officer. The woman stood as Ace entered, her hand instinctively moving toward what was likely a concealed weapon. "Impossible," she said, voice sharp with disbelief. Ace bowed with exaggerated politeness. "Captain Portgas D. Ace, very much alive, requesting formal acknowledgement of the Spade Dominion's presence in Crossroads waters." The Merchant Guild representative, a corpulent man with jeweled fingers, recovered first. "This is unexpected. Verification will be required." "Of course." Ace ignited his hand fully, flames swirling in the distinctive pattern only the real Ace could produce. "My devil fruit is rather unique." The former Marine woman hadn't relaxed her posture. Marineford's reports were explicit. Fleet Admiral Akainu delivered a fatal blow. "He certainly tried." Ace extinguished his flames. "I have the scar to prove it. But it seems I'm harder to kill than the world government anticipated." After further verification, including detailed questions about Whitebeard's crew that only a genuine commander could answer, the council reluctantly recorded the Spade Dominion's presence in their ledger. "Be warned," the local power broker said, speaking for the first time, "Crossroads remains neutral ground. Your resurrection will cause ripples. Any conflict must be taken beyond our waters." "Understood." Ace signed the registry with a flourish. "I'm just here for supplies, information, and perhaps some recruitment." "No trouble intended." The former Marine woman's lips thinned. "Trouble follows men like you, Portgas D. Ace, whether intended or not." Ace flashed her his most charming smile. "Then it's fortunate I'm good at handling trouble. News travels at impossible speeds in pirate hubs." By the time Ace left the council hall, whispers of his survival had already spread through Crossroads taverns and marketplaces. He felt eyes tracking him as he moved through the streets, some curious, others hostile. At the Rusty Anchor, a notorious tavern frequented by New World pirates, Ace found Kai waiting with a tankard of ale. "Words out," Kai said as Ace slid onto the bench opposite him. "You're the talk of the island." "Good." Ace took a swig from Kai's tankard. "Any interesting reactions?" Blackbeard's recruiter cleared out fast when he heard. "Headed for the northern harbor where their main ship is docked. Running to report back." Ace nodded, unsurprised. "Anyone worthwhile among the potential recruits?" Kai leaned forward, lowering his voice. 3 prospects. Shipwright named Tessa, genius with unconventional designs, looking for a crew after her last captain tried to sell her blueprints to the Marines. Gunner called Moss with modified weapons that can damage Sea Kings at half a mile. And a chef who used to work for Baroque Works, claims he knows recipes that can enhance devil fruit powers. Interesting mix. Bring them to the ship tonight for interviews. Ace surveyed the tavern, noting how conversations quieted as patrons noticed him. Anything else I should know? Yeah. Kai's expression turned serious. There's rumors of CP-0 agents on the island. Ace raised an eyebrow. The world government's top intelligence agents? Here. According to Lin's sources, they arrived 3 days ago disguised as merchants. No one knows their target, but a supposedly dead Whitebeard commander would certainly interest them. Ace considered this development. We may need to accelerate our schedule. A commotion at the tavern entrance drew their attention. A group of pirates pushed their way inside, their jackets emblazoned with a familiar symbol, Blackbeard's mark combined with a distinctive red sword. Blood tide, Kai murmured. Looks like Sawback Reed found new friends. The pirates scanned the room until their eyes landed on Ace. Reed pushed to the front, his face darkening with recognition and rage. Well, Reed called, loud enough for the entire tavern to hear. The dead man walking. Wasn't sure I'd believe it until I saw it myself. Conversations throughout the tavern died as patrons turned to watch the confrontation. Ace remained seated, deliberately relaxed. Reed. I see you've traded up in employers. How's life as Blackbeard's errand boy treating you? Reed's face flushed with anger. Better than being a ghost captain with delusions of grandeur. You're finished, Ace. You just don't know it yet. Funny, I was about to say the same to you. Ace took another calm sip of ale. Maiden's Heart sends its regards, by the way. The shipyards are thriving without your taxation. Reed took a step forward, hand moving to his weapon. Kai tensed, ready to draw his swords, but Ace subtly shook his head. This is neutral ground, Reed. You know the rules. Ace's voice remained conversational, though his eyes had hardened. Start something here, and neither Blackbeard nor your own crew will be able to protect you from the consequences. The tavern had gone completely silent, every eye watching the standoff. Reed's hand remained on his chain blade, his knuckles white with tension. Marshal Teach wants to see you, Reed finally said. He's offering you a place in his alliance. One chance to join the winning side. Laughter burst from Ace, genuine and unrestrained. Blackbeard wants to recruit me. After everything? That's rich. It's a legitimate offer. A new voice entered the conversation as a man stepped forward from Reed's group. Tall and rail-thin, with eyes that seemed too large for his narrow face. Marshal Teach recognizes talent, even in former enemies. Ace studied the newcomer. And you are? Lazarus. First mate of the Augury Pirates, allied with Marshal Teach. The man smiled thinly. He instructed me to tell you that the past can be forgotten if you pledge loyalty to his cause. Did he now? Ace leaned back, seemingly relaxed though his senses remained on high alert. Tell your marshal that I haven't forgotten a single moment of our past. Not Thatch's murder. Not the betrayal. Not a single second of it. Lazarus sighed as if disappointed. He said you'd respond this way. In that case, I'm to deliver his second message. He leaned forward, voice dropping. He's found another one of them. Soon he'll have 3. The race is accelerating, and you haven't even started. Ace's expression didn't change, but inwardly, his mind raced. Another road poneglyph. That's what Lazarus was implying. If Blackbeard already had locations for multiple poneglyphs, he was further along than Ace had realized. Thank you for the message, Ace said evenly. Here's my response, Blackbeard can gather all the ancient stones he wants. Without the strength to back it up, they're just rocks. And I'm coming for him, sooner than he thinks. Lazarus smiled, showing too many teeth. I'll convey your answer faithfully. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. The world government has placed a new bounty on your head. Quite impressive for a dead man, 800 million berries. Congratulations. As Blackbeard's representatives left the tavern, conversation exploded back to life, louder than before. Ace remained seated, his expression thoughtful. That complicates things, Kai said quietly. Not really. Ace finished the ale. Just accelerates our timeline. We need to move on the next phase sooner than planned. The CP0 presence, the bounty, Blackbeard's offer, it's not coincidence they're all happening now. No, it's not. Ace stood. Find Sophia and Rishi. We need to gather the crew immediately. As Ace left the tavern, the whispers followed him, spreading like wildfire through Crossroads Island, Port Gas D. Ace was alive, challenging Blackbeard, and carrying a bounty that put him among the highest in the New World. The game had officially begun. Back aboard the Phoenix Fong, Ace briefed his assembled crew on the developments. Blackbeard's further ahead than we anticipated, he concluded. He already has leads on multiple road poneglyphs. Sophia frowned, her fingers tapping her weather staff. Without those, finding One Piece is nearly impossible. Nearly, Ace agreed, but not completely. Blackbeard's using traditional methods, following the poneglyphs directly. We need to be smarter. He unrolled a map across the planning table, revealing the known New World territories with various markings indicating power structures and alliances. Our original plan was to establish our base territories before pursuing One Piece directly. That's changed. Now we'll do both simultaneously. Rishi adjusted his glasses. How exactly do we outsmart someone who already has a head start on the only known path to One Piece? By finding a different path. Ace placed a marker on a remote island near the edge of the map. This is Arkwright Isle. Under Whitebeard's protection for decades, home to scholars who specialized in ancient weapons research. If anyone knows alternative methods to locate Laugh Tale, it's them. And you're just mentioning this now because? Sophia asked, one eyebrow raised. Ace grinned. Because I wasn't sure they'd talk to me. Whitebeard kept them isolated for their protection. But with Reed's confirmation that Blackbeard is collecting poneglyphs, we need their knowledge. One problem, Kai interjected. According to your map, Arkwright Isle is directly in the territory Blackbeard claimed after Whitebeard's death. Exactly why we're heading there immediately. Ace's expression turned serious. If Blackbeard realizes their value, those scholars are in danger. The crew exchanged glances, processing the implications. They had been preparing for eventual confrontation with Blackbeard's forces, but not this soon. What about the potential recruits? Kai asked. And the CP0 agents? We'll interview the recruits tonight and depart before dawn. Ace looked around at his assembled crew. As for CP0, let them chase shadows. By the time they confirm I was here, we'll be long gone. As the crew dispersed to prepare for their accelerated departure, Sophia remained behind. You're not telling us everything, she said once they were alone. What exactly is on Arkwright Isle that's worth risking direct confrontation with Blackbeard? Ace studied her for a moment, then nodded slightly. Whitebeard mentioned it once. The scholars there aren't just researching ancient weapons, they're descendants of the O'Hara researchers. Sophia's eyes widened. The island the world government obliterated? Those who could read the ancient language? Survivors who escaped the purge. Whitebeard protected them because Roger asked him to, before he died. And now you think they can help us find One Piece without all the road poneglyphs? I think they might know something Blackbeard doesn't. Ace traced a path on the map. And right now, any advantage is worth pursuing. That night, as promised, Kai brought the 3 potential recruits aboard for interviews. Tessa the shipwright proved to be a compact woman with calloused hands and quick, intelligent eyes that assessed the Phoenix Fong with professional appreciation. Moss the gunner was tall and lanky with a perpetual squint from years of aiming at distant targets. The chef, who introduced himself simply as Culverin, had the muscular build of someone who considered cooking a combat art. Ace met each individually in his cabin, asking pointed questions about their skills, backgrounds, and motivations. By the end of the evening, all three had agreed to join the Spade Dominion, at least provisionally. "We leave before dawn," Ace informed them. "Once we're at sea, you'll have a week to decide if this crew is right for you. Same goes for us, if it's not a good fit, we'll drop you at a port of your choosing with payment for your time." As the new recruits settled in, Ace joined Sophia on the observation deck, watching the lights of Crossroads Island reflect across the harbor. "Three good additions," Sophia commented. "Especially Tessa. Her hull reinforcement ideas could make us faster and more maneuverable. If they work." Ace leaned against the railing. "She's untested in New World waters. Like most of us." Sophia glanced sideways at him. "You know what you're doing, collecting outcasts and specialists rather than raw manpower." Whitebeard commanded an armada because his goal was protection through overwhelming force. "My goal is different. Finding One Piece. Not just finding it. Understanding it." Ace watched a nearby patrol boat pass, its lantern swinging in the night breeze. Roger found it but was too early. The world wasn't ready. Whitebeard knew where it was but didn't seek it. Blackbeard wants it for power alone. "And you?" Ace considered the question. "I want to finish what Roger started and fulfill what Whitebeard protected. One Piece isn't just treasure, it's the truth about the Void Century, about the ancient weapons, about why the world government fears certain bloodlines." Sophia studied him curiously. "You've changed since I first joined. Less focused on revenge against Blackbeard, more on this larger purpose." "Near-death experiences have that effect," Ace said with a half-smile. "Don't worry, I still plan to take Blackbeard down. But that's personal. This," he gestured toward the horizon, "is bigger than personal vendettas." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only when Rishi appeared with urgent news. Two CP-0 agents spotted near the harbor master's office, asking questions about our ship, the doctor reported quietly. "They've discovered you're alive." Ace nodded, unsurprised. "Sooner than expected, but not a problem. Prepare for immediate departure." Quietly. "What about our clearance to leave harbor?" Sophia asked. "Crossroads has strict protocols. Sometimes protocols need to be broken." Ace straightened from the railing. "Wake the crew. We leave in an hour." Slipping out of Crossroads Harbor proved more complicated than anticipated. As the Phoenix Fong prepared to depart under cover of darkness, harbor patrol boats increased their activity, clearly searching for something, or someone. CP-0 must have alerted them, Kai muttered, watching from the shadows of the wheelhouse. "They've got the harbor mouth covered." Ace observed the patrol pattern, mind racing through options. A direct confrontation would violate Crossroads' neutrality, potentially making them unwelcome in the future. Sneaking past seemed unlikely given the heightened security. "Sophia," he called softly, "can you provide some weather-based cover?" The navigator studied the night sky, considering. "Fog would be most effective, but it's too dry. I could create a localized squall, but that might alert them to manipulation." "What about something less obvious?" "Strong winds to distract the patrol boats." Sophia nodded slowly. "I could manage that. Create a weather pattern that seems natural but diverts their attention." "Do it." As Sophia began working with her weather staff, Tessa approached Ace, her expression thoughtful. "Captain, I might have another solution," the shipwright said. "This vessel has unusual ballast tanks. With modifications, we could partially submerge, running just at surface level with minimal profile." Ace raised an eyebrow. "You can make those modifications right now?" "Already started when I saw the patrol boats increasing." Tessa grinned, confidence evident. Give me 20 minutes. You have 10. While Tessa worked with her tools in the lower decks, Sophia created a weather disturbance that sent patrol boats scrambling toward the southern end of the harbor, where sudden winds threatened to dash smaller vessels against the seawall. Precisely 12 minutes later, Tessa returned to the deck, wiping grease from her hands. Ready. We can't fully submerge, but we'll sit low enough in the water to appear as little more than debris in the darkness. Good enough. Ace turned to his crew. Douse all lights. Silent running. The Phoenix Fong transformed under Tessa's modifications, settling lower in the water as ballast tanks filled partially. With its darkened profile and minimal wake, the ship slipped between patrol routes like a ghost, inching toward the harbor mouth. They were nearly clear when disaster struck. A patrol boat unexpectedly changed course, heading directly toward them. At their current speed, collision seemed inevitable. Hold steady, Ace ordered, stepping to the bow. Keep your course. As the patrol boat bore down on them, lights sweeping across the water, Ace raised his hands. Concentrating intensely, he created a heat mirage above the water's surface, bending light around the Phoenix Fong's outline. The patrol boat's searchlight passed over them, the beam distorting through Ace's thermal manipulation. For a breathless moment, it seemed they'd been spotted. Then the patrol boat continued past, its crew oblivious to the nearly submerged pirate vessel beneath their searchlight. Only when they'd cleared the harbor mouth did the crew allow themselves relieved exhales. Tessa began the process of returning the ship to its normal configuration as they accelerated away from Crossroads Island. Impressive trick with the heat distortion, Sophia commented, joining Ace at the bow. New application of your powers. Been practicing, Ace admitted. Fire's not just destruction. It's energy, light, heat, all manipulable with enough control. Where to now, Captain? Kai called from the helm. Ace pointed northwest. Arkwright Isle. Maximum speed once we're configurations restored. We need to reach those scholars before Blackbeard realizes what we're doing. As the Phoenix Fong resumed its normal profile and unfurled full sails, Ace caught sight of movement from the Crossroads harbor behind them. A sleek, unmarked vessel had launched, its course clearly set to intercept them. CP-0, he murmured. They're persistent. Should we prepare for combat? Kai asked, hand moving to his swords. Ace considered their options. No. We can't outfight CP-0 agents directly, not their top operatives. We'll outrun them instead. He turned to Sophia. Can you give us favorable winds? Something that seems natural enough they won't immediately suspect devil fruit involvement. Already on it. Sophia raised her staff, the beryl stone glowing softly as she reached out to the atmosphere around them. There's a front moving in from the east. I can accelerate it, strengthen the tailwinds while creating headwinds for our pursuers. Within minutes, the Phoenix Fong surged forward on mysteriously favorable gusts, while behind them, the CP-0 vessel struggled against suddenly contrary weather patterns. They won't give up easily, Rishi observed, watching the pursuing ship through a spyglass. CP-0 answers directly to the five elders. If they're hunting you personally, something significant has changed. My existence changed the equation, Ace replied. A dead Whitebeard commander returning is problematic enough. A dead Whitebeard commander with Roger's bloodline actively pursuing One Piece. That's the world government's worst nightmare. By dawn, they had opened considerable distance between themselves and their pursuers, though the CP-0 vessel remained visible on the horizon, doggedly maintaining the chase. They're radioing our position to marine vessels in the region, Moss reported, his enhanced hearing picking up transmission sounds. We'll have more company soon. Ace studied the charts with Sophia. How long to Arkwright Isle? 3 days at this speed. But. She traced their route with concern. We'll have to pass near 2 marine bases. If they're already alerted to watch for us. Then we'll need to be creative. Ace turned to his new shipwright. Tessa, you mentioned other modifications you could make to increase our speed? The shipwright's eyes lit up. Several options, Captain. I've been studying the hull design. With the right materials, I could install hydrofoils that would lift us partially above the water at high speeds, reducing drag significantly. What materials do you need? Primarily lightweight metals. Aluminum alloys would be ideal, but any lightweight, corrosion-resistant metal would work. Ace considered this, then turned to Rishi. The medical equipment you requested at our last stop, what was the casing made from? Rishi blinked in surprise. Surgical-grade aluminum composite. Why? How essential is the casing? Understanding dawned on the doctor's face. The equipment itself is vital. The specific casing is replaceable. Tessa, would that work? The shipwright nodded enthusiastically. I could repurpose it immediately. Do it. Ace turned back to the charts. Sophia, find us the fastest route that keeps maximum distance from those marine bases. As the crew dispersed to their tasks, the new chef, Culverin, approached Ace with a steaming mug. Special blend, the chef said, offering the drink. Enhances focus and stamina. Particularly effective for devil fruit users. Ace accepted the mug cautiously, sniffing the aromatic contents. What's in it? Family secret. Culverin smiled mysteriously. But I guarantee it will help maintain your energy during extended power usage. Ace took a sip, surprised by the pleasant taste and immediate warming sensation that spread through his body. His flames responded, flickering along his fingertips with renewed vigor. Impressive, he admitted. You developed this yourself? Years of research into how different ingredients affect different devil fruit types. Yours is fire-based, so the mixture emphasizes thermogenic components. Keep making this, Ace said, already feeling his fatigue receding. And develop variations for different scenarios. Combat. Stealth. Recovery. Culverin nodded, pleased. Already have several formulations in mind, Captain. Throughout the day, the Phoenix Fong transformed. Tessa's modifications took shape as she repurposed materials from throughout the ship, creating retractable hydrofoil extensions that could deploy at high speeds. Sophia maintained their favorable winds while monitoring the CP-0 vessel, which remained in pursuit though falling gradually farther behind. By nightfall, they had left their immediate pursuers far enough behind to risk deploying Tessa's new hydrofoil system. The sensation was remarkable. At sufficient speed, the ship partially lifted from the water, skimming across the surface with significantly reduced drag. Magnificent, Sophia breathed, watching the wake patterns change as they accelerated beyond what should have been possible for a vessel their size. We're burning through fuel faster, Tessa cautioned. The propulsion system wasn't designed for this sustained speed. How long can we maintain it? Ace asked. 8 hours at most before we risk engine damage. That's enough. 8 hours at this speed puts significant distance between us and anyone following our last known heading. As they sped through the night, Ace gathered his core officers in the strategy room to discuss their approach to Arkwright Isle. According to my information, the island maintains minimal defenses by design, he explained. Whitebeard's protection was their primary security. With his death, they've likely gone into deeper hiding. Assuming they're still there at all, Kai pointed out. If Blackbeard claimed the territory, they might have fled. Possible, but unlikely. Their research requires specific conditions and equipment that would be difficult to relocate quickly. More likely, they've found ways to appear non-threatening while continuing their work in secret. Sophia studied the island's outline on the chart. So our approach needs to be cautious. If we arrive guns blazing, we could frighten the very people we're trying to help. Exactly. We'll send a small party ashore first, myself, Sophia, and Rishi. The Phoenix Fong will remain offshore, ready to extract us if necessary. And if Blackbeard has forces stationed there? Kai asked. Then we adjust accordingly. Ace's expression hardened. I won't abandon these scholars to him, but neither will I risk our crew unnecessarily. After the meeting concluded, Ace returned to the deck, watching the moonlight play across the waves as they skimmed over the surface. The confrontation with Blackbeard's representatives at Crossroads had confirmed what he'd suspected: his former adversary was systematically pursuing One Piece through traditional means. But Ace's near-death experience had taught him to look beyond traditional approaches. If the Arkwright scholars retained the knowledge he believed they did, there might be pathways to Laugh Tale that Blackbeard hadn't considered. The journey to Pirate King wasn't just about strength or determination, it was about understanding the true history that the world government had tried so desperately to erase. For 2 days, the Phoenix Fong made exceptional progress, alternating between normal sailing and bursts of hydrofoil-enhanced speed when Tessa deemed it safe for the engines. Their pursuers had fallen far behind, though occasional transponder snail reports indicated marine vessels had been dispatched throughout the region to search for them. On the morning of the 3rd day, Arkwright Isle appeared on the horizon, a rugged, mountainous landmass with dense forests covering most of its surface. From their approach, only a small harbor village was visible, nestled in a protective cove. No ships in the harbor, Sophia reported, scanning through her spyglass. Either it's abandoned, or they're being very cautious about visitors. Or it's a trap, Kai added grimly. Perfect place for an ambush. Ace studied the coastline carefully. We'll approach from the northern shore instead. Less obvious, and the forest provides cover for our landing party. They circled the island at a distance, eventually finding a sheltered inlet on the northern coast where a small boat could land unseen from the main settlement. As planned, Ace, Sophia, and Rishi prepared to go ashore while the Phoenix Fong remained at a safe distance, ready to extract them if needed. 4 hours, Ace told Kai. If we haven't returned or made contact by then, assume something went wrong. And then? Use your judgment. Ace clasped his first mate's shoulder. That's why you're in charge while I'm gone. The landing party took a small skiff to shore, beaching it in a hidden cove before proceeding into the dense forest. Though the island seemed peaceful, Ace maintained constant vigilance, senses alert for any sign of hostile presence. They had traveled perhaps 2 miles inland when Sophia suddenly raised her hand, signaling them to stop. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the forest ahead. Trip wires, she whispered, pointing to nearly invisible filaments strung between trees. And pressure plates beneath the leaf litter. Ace nodded appreciatively. The defenses were subtle but effective, designed to alert rather than kill. Can you get us through? Sophia surveyed the area with expert eyes. Follow exactly in my footsteps. Touch nothing I don't touch first. With painstaking care, she led them through the invisible security network, identifying and avoiding triggers that most would never have noticed. After nearly half an hour of slow progress, they reached what appeared to be a dead end, a solid rock face covered with vines and moss. Sophia examined it closely, then smiled. Clever. The rock face is real, but, she pushed aside a specific pattern of vines, revealing a narrow passage concealed by the natural formation. There's our entrance. The passage twisted through natural rock before opening into a surprising sight, a massive cavern converted into a research facility. Bookshelves lined the walls, workstations filled with charts and instruments dotted the open space, and suspended globes provided soft illumination. Most surprising was the number of people. At least 30 researchers moved about the cavern, absorbed in their work. None had noticed the new arrivals yet. Ace stepped forward into the light, hands deliberately empty and posture non-threatening. I come seeking knowledge, he announced clearly, using a traditional greeting Whitebeard had once mentioned. In the name of those who protected you before. Activity in the cavern froze. Every researcher turned toward them, expressions ranging from fear to suspicion to cautious hope. An elderly woman stepped forward, leaning on an ornate cane. Her white hair was bound in a tight bun, and despite her age, her eyes were sharp with intelligence. Those words haven't been spoken here since Edward Newgate fell, she said, studying Ace carefully. Who are you to invoke his name? Portgas D. Ace, former 2nd Division commander of the Whitebeard pirates. Murmurs spread through the cavern. The old woman squinted at him. Ace died at Marineford. Everyone knows this. Reports of my death were exaggerated. Ace stepped closer, into better light. I survived thanks to Marco the Phoenix. Now I lead my own crew, protecting what territories I can while pursuing my own path. The woman tapped her cane thoughtfully against the stone floor. And what brings you to Arkwright Isle, Portgas D. Ace? We are but simple scholars. We both know that's not true. Ace gestured to the research visible around them. You're descendants of O'Hara, continuing the work the world government tried to destroy. Whitebeard protected you because Roger asked him to. Shocked whispers erupted at the mention of O'Hara and Roger. The old woman's expression remained carefully neutral, though her knuckles whitened around her cane. Dangerous knowledge to possess, she finally said. Dangerous names to speak aloud. The world has become more dangerous for all of us, Ace replied. Blackbeard claims this territory now. It's only a matter of time before he discovers what you're really researching here. And you've come to warn us? How charitable. I've come seeking an alliance. Your knowledge, my protection. The old woman laughed, a surprisingly robust sound. Protection? From the man who couldn't protect himself against Akainu. Who couldn't save his own captain. The words struck like physical blows, but Ace maintained his composure. I've learned from those failures. Grown stronger. But more importantly, I understand what's at stake now. And what, precisely, do you believe is at stake? The true history. The meaning of the Void Century. The purpose of the ancient weapons. The reason the world government fears certain bloodlines, including mine. Ace met her gaze steadily. And the nature of One Piece itself. The old woman studied him silently for a long moment, then turned to a younger woman standing nearby. Lyra, what do you think? You have the best instincts for character. The woman called Lyra stepped forward, and Ace was immediately struck by her presence. Tall and athletic, with dark skin and striking silver eyes, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew her own capabilities precisely. Unlike the other researchers, she wore practical clothing that suggested combat training, and the subtle calluses on her hands spoke of weapons expertise. She circled Ace slowly, evaluating him with unnerving intensity. You seek One Piece, she stated rather than asked. But not as your father did. Ace stiffened. You know who my father was? Roger visited us personally, before surrendering himself, the old woman interjected. He spoke of a child to come. We've followed your journey from afar, Portgas D. Ace. Lyra completed her circuit around Ace, then nodded to the elder. He's genuine, grandmother. His intentions align with our preservation goals. Perhaps. The old woman tapped her cane again. But intentions change. Power corrupts. Test me then, Ace challenged. Ask what you need to determine if I'm worthy of your knowledge. The old woman, apparently Lyra's grandmother, considered this, then nodded sharply. Very well. 3 questions. Answer truthfully. She gestured, and researchers quickly cleared a central space, arranging cushions in a traditional circle. Ace, Sophia, and Rishi were invited to sit, with the old woman and Lyra completing the arrangement. First question, the elder began once they were seated. What do you believe One Piece to be? Ace considered carefully. Not just treasure or power. A truth. A revelation about the world and why it's structured as it is. Perhaps a weapon, perhaps knowledge, perhaps both, but definitely something the world government fears enough to create a great age of piracy rather than risk revealing. The old woman nodded slightly. Second question. If you found this truth and it revealed that your father, that Roger, was complicit in great evil, would you still reveal it to the world? Ace didn't hesitate. The truth doesn't change based on who it implicates. Including me, including Roger. The world deserves to know its real history, whatever that may be. Final question. Her eyes bored into his. Why should you be the one to find One Piece? Why not your brother Luffy, who has declared the same intention? Why not simply support his quest instead? This question caught Ace off guard. How did they know about Luffy's ambitions? About their relationship? Luffy seeks One Piece because it represents absolute freedom to him, Ace answered slowly. His understanding of its significance is simpler. I seek it because I've seen how the absence of truth corrupts everything, how secrets and lies have shaped our world for centuries. Luffy would reveal One Piece instinctively. I would do so strategically, understanding the consequences. He paused, then added, but if Luffy finds it first, I would stand with him. This isn't about who discovers it, it's about ensuring the right people control what happens afterward. Silence fell over the circle as the elder considered his answers. Finally, she nodded and turned to Lyra. Prepare the cipher archives. He may view the transcription documents. Lyra stood smoothly. All of them. All that pertain to the pathways section. Nothing of the weapons yet. As Lyra departed, the old woman finally introduced herself. I am Professor Minerva, lead researcher of what remains of the O'Hara Historical Initiative. This facility represents 30 years of rebuilding what the Buster Call destroyed. How many survived O'Hara? Rishi asked, speaking for the first time since their arrival. 12. Only 4 remain alive today. Minerva's eyes clouded with old grief. But we've trained a new generation. The knowledge continues. Sophia leaned forward. You mentioned Roger visited you. Did he learn about One Piece from your research? No. He already knew its location by then. He came to ensure we understood why it must remain hidden until the right time. Minerva's gaze returned to Ace. He spoke of a great war that would engulf the world when the truth emerged. A necessary cleansing, but one that would cause tremendous suffering. Before Ace could inquire further, Lyra returned carrying an ornate wooden box. She set it on the floor between them and opened it, revealing aged parchments covered in strange symbols. These are transcriptions from the scattered poneglyphs, Minerva explained. Not the road poneglyphs that point directly to Laugh Tale, but others that speak of alternative pathways, contingencies created by the ancient kingdom in case their primary records were destroyed. Ace stared at the incomprehensible writing. I can't read this. Few can. But Lyra will translate the relevant portions. Minerva turned to her granddaughter. Show him the stellar navigation cipher first. For the next several hours, Lyra explained the extraordinary system the ancient kingdom had created, a celestial navigation method that, when combined with specific astronomical knowledge, could potentially lead to Laugh Tale without requiring all 4 road poneglyphs. The catch, Lyra explained, is timing. The alignment only occurs once every 50 years. The next alignment is in approximately 3 years. 3 years, Ace repeated, mind racing with implications. That's our window. Precisely. Minerva nodded approvingly. In the meantime, you'd still need at least 2 road poneglyphs to narrow the possible locations. But instead of 4, you could manage with 2, if you have this knowledge to fill the gaps. Sophia had been taking careful notes, creating a modified navigational chart based on Lyra's translations. This changes everything. Blackbeard is pursuing all 4 poneglyphs, but with this method. We have an alternative path, Ace finished. One he likely doesn't know about. Rishi, who had been examining other research materials with a scholar's appreciation, looked up. There's something I don't understand. If this knowledge is so valuable, why share it with us so readily? You've only just met us. Minerva and Lyra exchanged glances. Lyra nodded slightly, and the elder sighed. Because we're out of time, Minerva said grimly. Blackbeard's forces landed on the southern shore 2 days ago. They've been systematically searching the island, working their way toward our location. We estimate they'll find us within 48 hours. Ace stiffened. Why didn't you say something immediately? We needed to assess your intentions first, Lyra explained. If you were aligned with Blackbeard or simply seeking power for yourself, warning you would only accelerate our demise. How many of Blackbeard's people? Sophia asked, immediately shifting to tactical considerations. At least 30 pirates, led by someone called Van Augur, Lyra replied. Plus local conscripts they've forced to assist in the search. Ace recognized the name, Blackbeard Sniper, known for his incredible accuracy over impossible distances. A dangerous opponent, especially on unfamiliar terrain. We need to evacuate your people immediately, he decided. The Phoenix Fong can accommodate everyone temporarily. Minerva shook her head. Evacuation is already underway through our emergency tunnels. Most researchers left yesterday for our secondary facility. Only a core team remains to pack the essential archives. And to find someone worthy of this knowledge, Lyra added, tapping the translation documents. Grandmother had a vision that someone would come, someone connected to both Roger and Newgate. Ace raised an eyebrow. A vision? Call it educated intuition, Minerva said with a slight smile. Based on pattern recognition across historical events. The children of great men tend to arrive at pivotal moments. We can debate destiny later, Sophia interjected practically. Right now, we need to get these remaining people and archives to safety before Blackbeard's forces find this place. Agreed. Ace turned to Lyra. How much remains to be evacuated? 3 crates of irreplaceable documents and 5 researchers besides ourselves. The tunnel system leads to a hidden cove on the western shore, but it's a difficult journey carrying the archives. Then we'll help carry them, Ace decided. And provide escort to ensure everyone reaches safety. Minerva studied him with renewed interest. Most pirates would take the information we've provided and leave us to our fate. I'm not most pirates. Ace stood, determination evident in his posture. Let's move quickly. If Van Augur is leading the search, we need to stay ahead of his surveillance. The evacuation proceeded with remarkable efficiency. The remaining researchers had clearly drilled for this contingency, each knowing exactly which materials to prioritize and how to pack them for transport. Within an hour, they had assembled in front of a concealed tunnel entrance, the precious archive secured in reinforced crates. This passage follows natural cave formations, Lyra explained as she prepared to lead them. It's narrow in places and partially flooded in others. Stay close and follow my light. As the group entered the tunnel, Ace took position at the rear, alert for any sign of pursuit. Sophia remained in the middle with the researchers, while Rishi assisted an elderly scholar who struggled with the uneven terrain. The journey through the tunnel system proved challenging. In some sections, they waded through knee-deep water, in others, they squeezed through passages barely wide enough for the archive crates. Throughout, Lyra navigated with confidence, her knowledge of the system clearly comprehensive. They had traveled perhaps 2 miles when Ace detected a change in air pressure, subtle but unmistakable. Someone had opened another entrance to the tunnel system. We're being followed, he whispered to Lyra when he caught up to her at a junction. How much farther to the exit? Less than a mile, but there's a difficult section ahead, a chamber where multiple tunnels converge. If they know the system, they could cut us off, Ace finished grimly. Is there an alternative route? Yes, but it's longer and partially submerged. Ace considered their options. Take the researchers and archives through your alternative route. Sophia and Rishi will go with you. I'll create a diversion. Lyra frowned. Alone? Against Van Augur and his men? I don't plan to fight them directly. Just delay them long enough for you to reach the exit. Ace smiled confidently. Fire in enclosed stone tunnels creates interesting effects. Smoke, heat, disorientation, all useful for buying time. Though clearly reluctant, Lyra recognized the logic and quickly explained the situation to the others. As the group prepared to take the alternative path, Minerva approached Ace. "Don't sacrifice yourself again, young man," she said sternly. "Your journey is just beginning." "No self-sacrifice planned," Ace assured her. "Just a strategic delay. I'll meet you at the exit." As the others disappeared into the secondary tunnel, Ace positioned himself at a strategic junction where multiple passages converged. From this position, he could monitor approaches from several directions while controlling potential retreat paths. He didn't wait long. Within minutes, he detected movement from one of the tunnels, the careful advance of multiple individuals trying to move silently. Ace prepared his ambush, gathering his power while remaining concealed in a shadowed alcove. When the first figures appeared, pirates carrying lanterns and weapons, Ace made his move. Not with a direct attack, but by superheating the air above them, creating a sudden pressure differential that extinguished their lanterns and filled the tunnel with disorienting smoke. In the confusion that followed, Ace struck strategically, quick, non-lethal flame attacks designed to drive the pirates back rather than seriously injure them. His control had improved significantly since Marineford. He could now produce precise fire effects that caused pain and fear without causing permanent damage. "It's him," someone shouted. "Fire Fist Ace." "Impossible," a cold, precise voice responded. "Van Augur," Ace recognized. "Maintain formation and advance." Ace retreated deeper into the tunnel system, laying traps as he went, superheated patches of stone that would burn bare hands, smoke-filled chambers that obscured vision, narrow passages partially blocked with controlled flame. His goal wasn't to defeat Blackbeard's forces but to consume their time and attention while the researchers escaped. From the increasingly frustrated commands he overheard, his strategy was working. At one junction, Ace nearly encountered Van Augur directly, only the sniper's distinctive silhouette visible through a smoke-filled passage. Ace froze, knowing the man's legendary accuracy made him dangerous even in these conditions. A shot rang out, the bullet passing through the space Ace had occupied milliseconds before as he dissolved into flame. He counterattacked not with fire but with intense heat, warping the sniper's rifle barrel just enough to render it temporarily unusable. "Fascinating," Van Augur's calm voice echoed through the smoke. "You've evolved your abilities since Marineford. More precision. More control." Ace didn't respond, instead creating a wall of flame across the passage before retreating further. He estimated he'd bought at least 20 minutes for the researchers, hopefully enough for them to reach the exit and signal the Phoenix Fong. Following the mental map Lyra had quickly sketched for him, Ace navigated toward where the alternative route would eventually rejoin his path. The sound of pursuit had faded, suggesting his diversionary tactics had successfully confused Blackbeard's forces. When he finally glimpsed natural light ahead, a crack in the tunnel ceiling revealing sky, Ace felt a surge of relief. The exit was close. Emerging from the tunnel onto a narrow rocky beach, Ace scanned the horizon for the Phoenix Fong. To his satisfaction, the ship was already approaching, having received Sophia's signal. Near the water's edge, the researchers were loading the archive crates into two small boats Lyra had apparently hidden there. Cutting it close, Sophia commented as he joined them. "We were about to send a search party. Had to take the scenic route," Ace replied, helping load the final crate. "Van Augur and his men should be thoroughly lost in the tunnel system by now, but they'll figure it out eventually. We need to move." As the small boats pushed off toward the approaching Phoenix Fong, Lyra lingered beside Ace. "You risked yourself for our knowledge," she observed. "Few would consider old documents worth facing Blackbeard's commander." "Knowledge is the only weapon that truly matters in this fight," Ace responded, watching as the first boat reached the ship. "Blackbeard thinks power alone will make him pirate king. I know better." Lyra studied him with those unusual silver eyes. "My grandmother believes you might be what we've been waiting for. Someone who seeks truth rather than power." And what do you believe? I believe intentions matter less than actions. She glanced toward where Minerva was being helped aboard the Phoenix Fawn. Which is why I've decided to join your crew. Ace raised an eyebrow in surprise. Just like that? These archives represent my people's entire history, everything that survived O'Hara's destruction. I won't entrust their protection to someone I don't personally observe. Her directness was refreshing. Besides, you'll need someone who can actually read the ancient language if you hope to utilize what we've given you. Before Ace could respond, shouts from the tunnel entrance announced the arrival of Blackbeard's forces. Van Augur emerged first, already aiming a replacement rifle toward the departing boats. Time to go, Ace said, launching a massive fireball toward the tunnel entrance to delay pursuit. Welcome aboard, Lyra of Arkwright. They pushed the remaining boat into the surf just as rifle fire peppered the water around them. Ace created a wall of flames between them and the shore, providing cover until they reached the Phoenix Fawn's boarding ladders. Once everyone was safely aboard, Kai ordered immediate departure, the ship's enhanced speed quickly putting distance between them and the island. From the stern, Ace watched as Van Augur organized boats to pursue, a futile effort given their vessel's superior speed. Will they follow? Sophia asked, joining him at the railing. They'll try, Ace replied. But our modifications give us the advantage. More concerning is what they'll report back to Blackbeard. That you're alive and interfering with his plans? That I'm pursuing an alternative path to One Piece. Ace turned from the railing. Which means we need to accelerate our timeline again. On the main deck, the researchers were being shown to temporary quarters while their archives were secured below. Minerva sat with Rishi, deep in conversation about preserving the more fragile documents during sea travel. Lyra stood apart, studying the ship and crew with analytical precision. Our newest recruit seems intense, Sophia observed, following his gaze. We need her knowledge, Ace replied. And I suspect her combat skills aren't insignificant either. You trust her? I trust her motivation. Protecting those archives means everything to her. As the Phoenix Fawn sped away from Arkwright Isle, Ace felt the weight of their newly acquired knowledge, both its potential and its danger. The celestial navigation method offered a path to Laugh-Tale that Blackbeard might not know existed, but it required specific astronomical conditions that wouldn't align for 3 years. In the meantime, they still needed at least 2 road poneglyphs to narrow the possible locations. And now Blackbeard knew Ace was actively pursuing One Piece. The game had changed, the stakes raised. But for the first time since embarking on this journey, Ace felt they had a genuine advantage, knowledge that might ultimately prove more valuable than raw power. As night fell, Ace gathered his expanded crew on the main deck. The Arkwright scholars watched curiously as he addressed his people. Today marks a turning point, he began, voice carrying clearly in the evening air. We've acquired knowledge that changes our path to One Piece. But we've also revealed ourselves to Blackbeard directly. The shadow game is over. He paced the deck, meeting each crew member's eyes in turn. From this point forward, we move with purpose and precision. Blackbeard pursues the traditional path to Laugh-Tale, all 4 road poneglyphs. We now have an alternative route, but it requires patience and at least 2 of those same poneglyphs. He stopped, turning to face them fully. Our next target is the road poneglyph rumored to be hidden in the ruins of God Valley. Dangerous territory, heavily monitored by both the Marines and Blackbeard's allies. We'll need every skill represented on this ship: navigation, combat, stealth, knowledge. Sophia stepped forward. According to nautical charts, God Valley officially doesn't exist anymore. It was erased from history after whatever happened there between Roger and Rox. It exists, Minerva interjected, her aged voice surprisingly strong. The island was not destroyed, merely hidden. The world government deployed advanced technology to conceal it from normal navigation. Lyra nodded in agreement. Our archives contain coordinates based on celestial positioning rather than traditional navigation. With my guidance and Sophia's weather control, we can find it. Then that's our course, Ace decided. We resupply at our allied territories, then make for God Valley's coordinates. As the crew dispersed to their duties, energy and purpose evident in their movements, Ace remained on deck, gazing at the star-filled sky. Somewhere out there, his brother Luffy continued his own journey toward One Piece, unaware that his supposedly dead brother now pursued the same goal. Somewhere, Blackbeard gathered his forces and poneglyphs, growing stronger by the day. And somewhere, the truth of the Void Century waited to be discovered, a truth Roger had found but deemed the world unready for. Are we ready now? Ace murmured to the night sky, as if his biological father might somehow hear. Is this the time you foresaw? Only the stars answered, their ancient light illuminating the path ahead, a path that would eventually lead to Laugh Tale, to One Piece, and to the truth that would shake the foundations of the world. The Phoenix Fong sailed on, carrying its crew of scholars and pirates toward a destiny that had been set in motion centuries before, when an ancient kingdom fell and a great void was written into history. Ace, once dead and now reborn through fire, stood at the center of it all, not as Roger's son or Whitebeard's commander, but as his own man, forging his own legacy. The next pirate king continued his journey, flames burning brighter than ever before. Chapter 3, Crown of Fire. 5 years after claiming Maiden's Heart as his first territory, Port Gas D. Ace stood at the bow of the Inferno Queen, a majestic flagship that had long since replaced the Phoenix Fong. The vessel cut through rough seas with graceful power, its reinforced hull gleaming black and crimson under the setting sun. Behind it sailed a fleet of 17 ships, each flying the emblem of the Spade Dominion, a fiery spade surrounded by a crown of flames. "You're brooding again," Sophia called, approaching with the confidence of someone who'd stood beside her captain through countless battles. No longer just his navigator, she now carried the title of First Commander, her weather staff upgraded with rare metals and enhanced beryl stones that allowed her to manipulate atmospheric conditions across vast distances. "Not brooding," Ace replied with a half-smile. "Contemplating. Same difference." She leaned against the railing beside him, her dark hair now streaked with a single stripe of silver, a souvenir from a particularly intense battle with Marine Admiral Kizaru 2 years prior. "We're less than 3 days from the rendezvous point. Having second thoughts?" Ace shook his head, watching as distant storm clouds gathered on the horizon. "No second thoughts. Just making sure we're ready for what comes next." The rendezvous point she mentioned was where they would meet Luffy's fleet, a strategic alliance years in the making. After nearly a decade of parallel journeys, the two brothers were finally combining forces for the ultimate prize. "The celestial alignment begins in 5 days, Sophia reminded him. "According to Lyra's calculations, the window lasts only 72 hours. "If we miss it, we won't miss it," Ace interrupted with calm certainty. "Luffy will be there with the poneglyph transcriptions. We have our stellar charts. Everything's in place." Dr. Rishi emerged from below deck, his once black hair now fully white though his movements remained spry. "The medical teams are prepped on all vessels. Whatever awaits us at Laugh Tale, we'll be ready." Ace nodded in appreciation. Blackbeard's been suspiciously quiet these past months. His forces pulled back from 3 territories without explanation. "Because he's waiting for us at Laugh Tale," came Lyra's voice as she joined them. The scholar warrior had become one of Ace's most trusted advisors, her knowledge of ancient history proving invaluable countless times. "His network has been tracking our movements. He knows about the celestial alignment." "Of course he does," Ace said without surprise. "I never expected to reach Laugh Tale unchallenged." "It won't just be Blackbeard," Sophia added grimly. "Our intelligence suggests Fleet Admiral Akainu has assembled the largest marine armada seen since Marineford. They're positioning at strategic points throughout the region." Ace unconsciously touched the massive scar on his chest, the permanent reminder of his near death at Akainu's hands. "Let him come. We're not the same people who fought at Marineford." That was undeniably true. The years had transformed Ace, not just physically, with the addition of battle scars and the deepening of his features, but fundamentally. The reckless commander who had chased Blackbeard solo was gone, replaced by a leader whose strategies were as carefully calculated as they were boldly executed. His devil fruit powers had evolved beyond what anyone thought possible. The blue-white flames that had first appeared during his recovery now formed the core of his abilities, hotter, more precise, capable of effects no other flame user had ever achieved. Through years of battle and experimentation, Ace had pushed the Mera Mera no Mi to its limits and beyond, achieving what many believed was a true awakening. "Captain," called Kai from the quarterdeck, message from the advanced scout ship. "They've spotted what appears to be a marine blockade forming near Crescent Island." "As expected," Ace replied. "They're trying to funnel us toward their main force." He turned to Sophia. "Plot a course through the Serpent's Jaw instead. The currents are treacherous, but with my weather manipulation and your flame barriers, we can navigate it," she finished confidently. "They won't expect that approach." "Precisely." Ace smiled, the expression transforming his battle-hardened face into something resembling the young man he'd once been. "Let them chase shadows while we slip through their net." As Sophia departed to adjust their course, Rishi studied Ace with the careful assessment of someone who had spent years monitoring his captain's health. "You haven't been sleeping," the doctor observed quietly. Ace shrugged. "I'll sleep when we reach Laugh Tale. You've been pushing your powers harder lately. The new techniques put tremendous strain on your body." "Necessary strain," Ace replied, his tone ending the discussion. The truth was more complicated than he'd admit. The advanced flame techniques he'd developed, particularly the ability to create self-sustaining fire constructs that could operate independently, demanded more than just physical energy. Each use seemed to burn something deeper, something essential. But with Blackbeard and Akainu both standing between him and One Piece, holding back wasn't an option. "Captain." The lookout's voice cut through his thoughts. "Ship approaching from the northwest. It's flying a Revolutionary Army flag." Ace straightened, instantly alert. "Friendly. Allow them to approach." Within the hour, a sleek vessel featuring revolutionary design elements pulled alongside the Inferno Queen. A boarding plank extended, and a familiar figure crossed onto Ace's deck, tall, blonde, dressed in formal revolutionary garb, with a distinctive burn scar across his left eye. "Sabo," Ace greeted warmly, clasping his brother's arm. "Wasn't expecting you until the rendezvous." "Plans changed," Sabo replied, his expression serious despite the reunion. "Dragon sent me ahead with critical intelligence. Is there somewhere we can talk privately?" In Ace's quarters, a space that functioned as both personal cabin and strategic command center, Sabo unrolled detailed maps across the central table. Around them gathered Ace's core commanders, Sophia, Rishi, Lyra, and Kai. "The world government knows about the celestial alignment," Sabo began without preamble. "Someone leaked the information, we suspect from within Blackbeard's ranks." "Unsurprising," Ace commented. "Teach has never inspired true loyalty. What you don't know is how they're responding." Sabo pointed to various locations on the map. "They've activated something called Operation Eternal Night. 11 marine battleships equipped with specialized weapons designed specifically to counter your flame abilities, Ace." "What kind of weapons?" Sophia asked, leaning forward with concern. "Some kind of advanced sea prism stone technology developed by Dr. Vegapunk before his disappearance. According to our intelligence, they can generate a field that temporarily nullifies devil fruit powers within a certain radius." Ace absorbed this information calmly. "Range?" "Approximately half a nautical mile per device. With 11 ships, they could create overlapping fields covering a significant area." "Troublesome," Ace acknowledged, "but not insurmountable. We've faced sea prism stone before." "Not like this," Sabo insisted. "These devices don't just weaken devil fruit users, they actively suppress the powers at a fundamental level. You wouldn't even be able to generate a spark within their range." A contemplative silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. "We'll need to adapt our approach," Ace finally said. "Sophia, your weather manipulation isn't devil fruit-based. You'll take point if we encounter these vessels." Sophia nodded. "I'll prepare specialized storm patterns. Kai, your hockey-enhanced combat teams will be crucial." The swordsman grinned fiercely. "Been waiting for a chance to show we don't need fancy powers to kick ass." "Lyra," Ace continued, "you mentioned ancient countermeasures against similar technologies in the O'Hara archives." The scholar nodded thoughtfully. "There are references to the ancient kingdom developing protections against power suppression. I'll need to review the texts, but there might be applicable strategies." Ace turned back to Sabo. "Any word from Luffy?" "He sent a message through our network 2 days ago. He has the final road poneglyph transcription and is on schedule for the rendezvous. His alliance has grown, nearly 30 ships now fly under his flag or those of his direct allies." Pride flickered across Ace's face. His little brother had carved his own remarkable path through the New World, gathering allies through his unique ability to inspire loyalty and friendship rather than fear. "Between his fleet and ours, we'll have a formidable force," Rishi observed. "Numbers alone won't determine this battle," Ace cautioned. "We're facing both Blackbeard's forces and the full might of the Marines, possibly simultaneously. Victory will depend on precision, timing, and the element of surprise." He turned to a separate chart, one showing the celestial patterns Lyra had decoded from the ancient texts. "The alignment begins in 5 days. According to these calculations, it will reveal the true path to Laugh Tale for precisely 72 hours. During that window, we must not only find the island but secure it against our enemies." "And if Blackbeard reaches it first?" Kai asked the question on everyone's mind. Ace's expression hardened. "Then we take it from him." The simple declaration carried the weight of years of preparation, strategy, and growth. The man who spoke those words was not the impulsive commander who had rushed after Teach alone, but a leader who had built an alliance capable of challenging the world's greatest powers. "What about Akainu?" Sabo asked quietly, knowing better than anyone except Luffy what that name meant to Ace. For a moment, fire flickered in Ace's eyes, not his devil fruit power, but something more primal. "Akainu is mine," he said, his voice low and controlled. "5 years ago, he nearly took everything from me. Now he'll understand what it means to face someone who's walked through death and returned stronger." The commanders exchanged glances, recognizing the rare glimpse of the burning vengeance Ace usually kept carefully contained. "Rest tonight," Ace concluded, his composure returning. "Tomorrow we rendezvous with Luffy's fleet and finalize our approach. Once the alignment begins, there's no turning back." As the meeting dispersed, Sabo lingered behind. Once they were alone, the brothers embraced properly. "Thought you were dead for years," Sabo said, his voice rough with emotion. "Then you actually nearly die, come back, and decide to become Pirate King. Could you possibly make things more complicated?" Ace laughed, the sound lightening the tension. "Says the Revolutionary Army commander with a higher bounty than some emperors. We're not exactly a normal family." "Speaking of family." Sabo reached into his coat and withdrew a battered envelope. "Luffy doesn't know I have this. It's from Garp." Ace stared at the envelope with surprise. "Garp wrote to me? Apparently he's known you survived for years. Kept it to himself, even from the other Marines." Sabo handed over the letter. "Said if I ever crossed paths with you before this final confrontation, I should deliver it." Ace took the envelope, feeling its weight, both physical and symbolic. "Did you read it?" "No. That's between you and the old man." After Sabo departed to return to his ship, Ace sat alone with the unopened letter. His relationship with Garp had always been complicated, the Marine hero who had raised him despite knowing he was Roger's son, who had trained him with brutal love, who had sat helplessly at Marineford as Ace faced execution. Finally, he broke the seal and unfolded the single page inside. Ace, if you're reading this, you're about to make your final push for Roger's treasure. I won't waste ink trying to discourage you, stubbornness runs in both your bloodlines. I should have done more at Marineford. That failure will haunt me until I die. But know this, whether you succeed or fall, I am proud of the man you've become. Not because of whose blood runs in your veins, but because of the choices you've made despite it. The world is about to change. When you find what Roger found, remember that power without purpose is just destruction. Your father understood this. So did Newgate. Whatever happens, you were my grandson first, before you were anyone's son or anyone's captain. Garp P.S. If you see that other troublemaking grandson of mine, tell him his grandfather says he still hits like a child. Ace read the letter twice, then carefully refolded it and placed it in a hidden compartment in his desk. The old man's words settled something inside him, a question that had lingered since his death at Marineford. Not about his worth or his right to exist, he'd finally put those demons to rest years ago, but about his purpose. He was no longer chasing the shadows of Roger or Whitebeard. He wasn't seeking One Piece to prove himself worthy of their legacies. He was pursuing his own vision of what the Pirate King should be, a vision shaped by both men but ultimately his own. Outside his window, stars glittered across the night sky, the same stars that would soon align to reveal the path to Laugh Tale. To truth. To One Piece. Ace extinguished the cabin lamps with a casual gesture and lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in weeks, he slept without dreams of fire and magma and dying in his brother's arms. Dawn broke clear and bright as the Inferno Queen and its fleet approached the rendezvous coordinates. Lookout spotted the first of Luffy's ships appearing on the horizon, distinctive even at a distance with its lion figurehead and colorful design. The Thousand Sunny had changed over the years, much like its captain, growing larger and more impressive while somehow maintaining its essential character. As it drew alongside the Inferno Queen, Ace stood at the railing, scanning the deck for his brother. He didn't have to look long. A rubbery arm stretched across the gap between ships, followed by the rest of Monkey D. Luffy as he catapulted himself onto Ace's deck, landing with practiced ease. Ace. The shout carried the same boundless enthusiasm Luffy had always possessed, even as a child. The brothers collided in a hug that would have crushed normal men. When they separated, Ace took a moment to really look at his little brother. At 24, Luffy had finally grown into his potential, taller, broader through the shoulders, his face having lost its boyish roundness. The straw hat still sat on his head, though it now bore additional battle scars and repairs. His eyes, however, remained unchanged, filled with the same determination and joy that had defined him since childhood. "Took you long enough," Ace grinned. "Thought you might have gotten lost." "Had to pick up some friends," Luffy replied, gesturing behind him where several of his core crew were preparing to board. "Nami says we're right on schedule." Over the next hour, both fleets anchored in formation as the leaders gathered aboard the Inferno Queen for a council of war. The great cabin filled with the most formidable alliance the New World had seen since the Paramount War, Luffy and his Straw Hat commanders, Ace and his Spade Dominion officers, Sabo representing the Revolutionary Army, and key allies from both brothers' extended networks. "The situation is this," Ace began once everyone was settled. "In 3 days, the Celestial Alignment will reveal the true path to Laugh Tale. Thanks to Luffy's crew obtaining the final road poneglyph transcription, we can narrow the possible locations to this region." He indicated an area on the map where Sophia had marked precise coordinates. Nami, who had become one of the world's most accomplished navigators, studied the coordinates with professional appreciation. "Your calculations match ours. During the alignment, the stellar reflection on the sea will reveal a pathway visible only during those specific hours." "Exactly," Lyra confirmed. "The ancient texts describe it as a bridge of light cast by heaven itself, visible only to those who seek truth rather than power." Poetic, but essentially accurate from an astronomical perspective. Robin, whose knowledge of the Void Century had grown exponentially over the years, exchanged knowing glances with Lyra. The two scholars had collaborated occasionally through secure channels, sharing discoveries without compromising their respective crews. The challenge, Ace continued, is not just finding Laugh Tale, but reaching it through what will undoubtedly be the greatest concentration of opposing forces we've ever faced. Both Blackbeard's fleet and marine headquarters are converging on this region. Luffy, uncharacteristically serious, leaned forward. Let them come. We're stronger together than either of them. It's not just about strength, Sabo cautioned. The Marines have developed new anti-devil fruit technology. And Blackbeard's powers have evolved in frightening ways according to our intelligence. Which is why we need a strategy that doesn't rely solely on brute force, Ace agreed. I propose a three-pronged approach. He outlined the plan that had formed in his mind over restless nights. Luffy's fleet would engage Blackbeard's forces directly, utilizing the Straw Hat Captain's unparalleled ability to inspire allies and adapt to chaotic battle conditions. Sabo's revolutionary ships would create a diversion to draw off the marine forces, exploiting their intimate knowledge of Navy protocols and communication systems. Meanwhile, Ace would lead a smaller, faster contingent to follow the celestial path the moment it appeared, breaking through to Laugh Tale ahead of both enemy forces. Once we secure the island, Ace explained, we'll signal the rest of our alliance to converge there. Laugh Tale itself will become our stronghold. You're assuming we can hold it against subsequent attacks, Zoro pointed out pragmatically. According to the ancient texts, Laugh Tale possesses natural defenses that activate once someone worthy claims the island, Lyra explained. The challenge is reaching it first and proving that worthiness. Discussions continued for hours, with each aspect of the plan examined and refined. Maps were annotated, contingencies developed, communication protocols established. Throughout, the brothers maintained a seamless coordination, Luffy's intuitive brilliance complementing Ace's strategic precision, with Sabo bridging gaps with his diplomatic and intelligence expertise. As the meeting concluded and allies returned to their respective ships, Luffy lingered behind with Ace. Hey, Luffy said once they were alone, his voice unusually quiet. You really think we'll make it? To Laugh Tale. Ace studied his brother, surprised by the rare moment of uncertainty. Having doubts? That's not like you. Not doubts exactly. Luffy adjusted his straw hat. Just thinking about what happens after. If One Piece really is what Robin thinks it is, the truth about everything, then finding it means war, Ace finished. The war Roger foresaw. The one he was too early for. Luffy nodded solemnly. Is the world ready now? It was perhaps the most mature question Ace had ever heard from his younger brother. The fact that Luffy was considering the consequences of their actions rather than simply charging ahead showed how much he'd grown. I don't know, Ace admitted. But I do know that keeping the truth buried hasn't created peace, just controlled subjugation. The world government has maintained power through lies for centuries. Maybe it's time for those lies to end, whatever comes after. Luffy's serious expression gave way to his characteristic grin. Good enough for me. As long as we're facing it together this time. Together, Ace agreed, clasping his brother's shoulder. No more sacrifices. As Luffy returned to the Thousand Sunny, Ace remained on deck, watching the massive allied fleet spread across the horizon, ships of different designs and origins, united under the banners of two brothers who had once been just kids with impossible dreams. Sophia joined him, her weather staff in hand. The barometric pressures dropping. Big storm coming in from the east. Natural or marine-induced? Natural, but I can enhance it. Give us cover for our final approach. Ace nodded appreciatively. Do it. Any advantage helps at this point. She hesitated, then added more softly, I've been with you since nearly the beginning of this journey. Followed you through battles that should have killed us a dozen times over. But this, what's coming, it's different. Scared? He asked without judgment. Cautious, she corrected with a slight smile. 5 years with you has taught me the difference between necessary risks and foolishness. And which category does this fall into? She laughed lightly. Both, probably. But I wouldn't be anywhere else. Her expression turned more serious. Just promise me something. When you face Blackbeard, when you face Akainu, remember you're not alone anymore. You have people who'll stand with you. The concern in her voice touched something in Ace, a reminder that his quest had long since ceased being solely about his own redemption or vengeance. So many had invested in this journey, committed their lives to it. I promise, he said simply, meaning it. As the day wore on, final preparations accelerated across the Allied fleet. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Combat teams drilled one last time. Navigation systems were calibrated to track the imminent celestial event. By nightfall, the massive storm Sophia had enhanced rolled in, shrouding the fleet in sheets of rain and fog, perfect concealment as they made their final approach toward the coordinates where Laugh Tale would reveal itself. In the darkness of his cabin, Ace studied the ancient star charts Lyra had translated, committing the critical patterns to memory. According to the texts, the alignment would create a visual phenomenon visible only from a specific vantage point, a convergence of starlight reflected on the ocean surface, forming a pathway that led directly to Laugh Tale's true location. A knock interrupted his concentration. Enter, he called, not looking up from the charts. The door opened to admit Dr. Rishi, carrying his medical bag. Time for your final check before the alignment. Ace sighed but didn't protest as the doctor began his examination. After years together, he knew Rishi's stubbornness matched his own. Your heart rate is elevated, Rishi noted with professional detachment. And these burn patterns on your arms, they're new. Ace glanced at the strange, flame-like markings that had begun appearing on his skin in recent months, side effects of pushing his devil fruit powers beyond normal limits. They don't hurt, he said dismissively. Pain isn't always the best indicator of damage, Rishi replied, applying a cooling salve to the marks. Your awakened abilities are extraordinary, but they're clearly taking a toll. The human body wasn't designed to channel that much energy. I just need to hold together a little longer. Rishi paused, his experienced hands gentle as he wrapped fresh bandages around Ace's forearm. And after? Have you considered what these advanced techniques might be doing to your lifespan? The question hung in the air between them. Ace had, in fact, considered it, had felt the subtle but unmistakable drain each time he pushed beyond normal limits. But with both Blackbeard and Akainu standing between him and his goal, holding back wasn't an option. One problem at a time, Doc, he finally replied. Let's reach Laugh Tale first. Then worry about how many years I have left to enjoy being Pirate King. Rishi didn't look satisfied, but he recognized the futility of pushing further. At least promise you'll use the stabilizing compounds I prepared before engaging in extreme power usage. They should help mitigate the worst effects. I promise. Ace accepted the small case of specialized medications the doctor offered. Now get some rest. Tomorrow changes everything. After Rishi departed, Ace returned to studying the star charts, but his mind kept drifting to the doctor's concerns. The truth was, the advanced flame techniques he'd developed over the past 5 years, particularly those discovered after achieving what many called a true awakening, demanded more than just physical energy. Each use seemed to burn something essential, something irreplaceable. Creating autonomous flame constructs that could operate independently of his physical form. Generating heat so intense it could vaporize sea prism stone. Dissolving his entire body into fire at a fundamental level, beyond the normal capabilities of a Logia user. These abilities had proven crucial in battles against increasingly powerful enemies, but each came with a cost he couldn't fully calculate. A cost he'd gladly pay if it meant achieving his goal and protecting those who'd followed him. Outside his window, lightning flashed across the storm-darkened sky. Within that momentary illumination, Ace caught a glimpse of shapes moving through the distant clouds, marine surveillance vessels attempting to track their position despite Sophia's weather cover. The final pieces were moving into position. In less than 24 hours, the celestial alignment would begin, revealing the path to Laugh Tale and initiating the greatest confrontation the seas had witnessed since Marineford. This time, Ace wouldn't be facing execution on a platform. This time, he would be standing with his brother rather than dying in his arms. This time, the outcome would be different. Dawn broke through thinning storm clouds, revealing a sea dotted with ships as far as the eye could see. The combined fleet of the Spade Dominion and Straw Hat Alliance, positioned in defensive formation around the coordinates where the celestial phenomenon would soon manifest. Ace stood on the forward observation deck of the Inferno Queen, Lyra beside him with specialized equipment designed to track stellar movements with precision. 2 hours until the alignment begins, she announced, adjusting delicate instruments. The atmospheric conditions are ideal thanks to Sophia's manipulation. And our company? Ace asked, though he already knew the answer. Blackbeard's fleet was spotted approaching from the southwest. At least 30 vessels, including his flagship, the Saber of Xebec. She hesitated before adding, Marine forces are converging from multiple directions. Preliminary counts suggest over 50 warships, with at least 3 bearing admiral flags. Ace nodded, unsurprised. And the special anti-devil fruit vessels Sabo warned us about. Identified by our scouts. Currently positioned in a crescent formation to the east, likely intending to cut off our escape route once we're engaged with Blackbeard's forces. Around them, the Allied fleet hummed with tense preparation. Combat teams stood ready at their stations. Navigators watched for the first signs of the celestial phenomenon. Communication officers maintained constant contact between vessels. Sophia approached, her staff glowing softly with accumulated atmospheric energy. I've done what I can with the weather patterns. Created a high-pressure system directly above our position that should maximize visibility of the alignment. Beyond that. She shrugged. Nature takes its course. It's enough, Ace assured her. Is the strike team assembled? Ready on your command. The Firebird is prepped and waiting. The Firebird was their ace in the hole, a specialized vessel designed by Tessa specifically for the final approach to Laugh Tale. Small enough to be maneuverable, fast enough to outrun pursuers, and reinforced to withstand both Ace's intense flames and enemy attacks. Its unique propulsion system, powered partially by Ace's own fire, made it theoretically the fastest ship on the sea for short bursts. Good. Ace surveyed the horizon once more. Once the path reveals itself, we'll have minutes at most before both enemy fleets converge on our position. The Firebird needs to launch immediately, while our main forces engage to cover our approach. Before Sophia could respond, a signal flare shot up from the Thousand Sunny. Moments later, Luffy's voice came through the transponder snail. Blackbeard's ships just changed formation, he reported, uncharacteristic tension in his voice. They're spreading out in attack positions. He knows exactly where we are and what we're waiting for. Maintain our defensive posture, Ace instructed. Don't engage until the alignment begins. We need all attention on those coordinates when the moment comes. As he disconnected, Kai approached with fresh intelligence from their scout vessels. Marine fleet is deploying what appears to be long-range artillery, the swordsman reported. Specialized ammunition, likely sea prism stone-tipped. Range? At current distance, we're just outside their effective fire zone. But if we commit to following the celestial path, we'll have to move within their range, Ace finished. Unavoidable. Alert all vessels to prepare anti-artillery countermeasures. As Kai departed to relay orders, Rishi joined them on the observation deck, medical kit in hand as always. Strike team medics are prepped with specialized treatments for devil fruit users. If you encounter those suppression fields, we have the countermeasures you developed, Ace assured him. Though we'll try to avoid direct exposure. The doctor nodded, though concern remained evident in his eyes. Before he could speak further, Lyra's instruments began emitting a soft, pulsing tone. It's starting, she announced, excitement breaking through her usual composure. The stellar convergence is initiating. Primary alignment in 7 minutes. Throughout the fleet, crews turned their attention to the sky and sea. Even from the enemy vessels now visible on the horizon, Ace knew experienced navigators would be tracking the rare celestial event. The minutes passed with excruciating slowness, tension building across the assembled ships. Then, precisely as Lyra's calculations had predicted, the phenomenon began. It started subtly, a strange prismatic effect where starlight reflected off the sea's surface despite the daytime conditions. The effect intensified rapidly, coalescing into a visible pathway of light stretching across the water from their position toward a specific point on the horizon where nothing was currently visible. There. Lyra pointed, her voice filled with academic excitement. The path to Laugh Tale. Before anyone could respond, multiple explosions erupted across their defensive line as Blackbeard's fleet opened fire simultaneously. "They're trying to disrupt our observation," Sophia shouted above the sudden cacophony of battle. "Too late," Ace replied calmly, memorizing the exact coordinates the light path indicated. "We have what we need. Signal the strike team, launch immediately." As orders flashed across the fleet, Luffy's voice came through the transponder snail again, "We'll handle Blackbeard. Get to Laugh Tale, Ace." The brothers had planned this moment meticulously. While Ace led the specialized strike force to secure Laugh Tale, Luffy would command the main fleet against Blackbeard's forces, with Sabo coordinating the diversionary tactics against the Marines. Within minutes, Ace and his strike team, Sophia, Lyra, Kai, and 7 other elite crew members, had transferred to the Firebird. The specialized vessel detached from the Inferno Queen's shadow and shot forward, following the path of light that only their navigators could now properly track. Behind them, the sea erupted in combat as hundreds of ships engaged in what would later be called the Battle of the Final Horizon. Cannon fire thundered across the water. Devil fruit powers manifested in spectacular displays of destruction. The sky darkened with smoke and flame and stranger energies. Aboard the Firebird, Sophia maintained their course with unwavering precision, following the celestial pathway that shimmered just above the water's surface, visible only to those who knew exactly what to look for. 2 vessels in pursuit, Kai reported from his observation position. Fast movers. One appears to be Blackbeard's personal skiff. The other flies Akainu's flag. Ace absorbed this information without surprise. Of course the 2 men who had defined his journey would be the ones to chase him personally in this final stretch. How long until they intercept? At current speeds, 15 minutes. But they're gaining. Ace moved to the Firebird's specialized engine room, where combustion chambers had been designed to amplify his flames. Placing his hands on the designated panels, he channeled a careful measure of his power into the system, causing the ship to surge forward with increased speed. "That buys us maybe 5 more minutes," he told Kai upon returning to the deck. "Use them wisely." As they raced along the light path, something began to materialize in the distance, a distortion in the air that gradually resolved into the shadowy outline of an island where charts showed empty ocean. "Laugh Tale," Lyra breathed, awe evident in her voice despite her scholarly detachment. Hidden by some kind of optical distortion until viewed from this specific approach angle during the alignment. The island grew more distinct as they approached, mountainous terrain covered in lush vegetation unlike any ecosystem they recognized, surrounded by treacherous rock formations that would shred conventional vessels attempting approach from any direction but the celestial path. Defensive positions. Kai ordered as the pursuing vessels closed the distance more rapidly than anticipated. "They'll be in weapons range in 3 minutes." The Firebird's crew armed themselves with the specialized weapons Tessa had designed for this moment, a combination of advanced technology and ancient principles discovered in the O'Hara archives. Against normal enemies, they might seem strange or even ineffective, but against the specific threats of Blackbeard and Akainu, they represented their best chance. "There." Sophia pointed to a narrow inlet that appeared to be the only safe harbor along the island's formidable coastline. "That must be our landing point." She guided the vessel with expert precision, navigating between razor-sharp rock formations that seemed almost deliberately positioned to shred approaching ships. Behind them, their pursuers were forced to slow, unable to follow the exact path without risking destruction. The moment the Firebird touched the shore of Laugh Tale, Ace felt a change in the air, a strange vibration that seemed to resonate with something inside him. Around them, the island pulsed with an energy he couldn't name but somehow recognized, as though the land itself was awakening to their presence. "Secure the beachhead," he ordered as his team disembarked. "Lyra, which way to the island center?" The scholar consulted ancient diagrams she'd memorized years ago. "There should be a path leading inland from this exact landing point. According to the texts, it leads directly to what they called the Revelation Stone, presumably the location of One Piece itself." No sooner had she spoken than a narrow trail became visible among the dense foliage, almost as if the island had revealed it in response to her words. "Kai, take half our force and establish defensive positions here," Ace instructed. "Blackbeard and Akainu will be landing within minutes. Delay them as long as possible without taking unnecessary risks." "And if delay isn't possible," the swordsman asked pragmatically. "Then fall back to predetermined positions along the path. We need to reach the center before they do, but we also need to know when they're coming." As Kai organized the defense, Ace led the remaining team members, Sophia, Lyra, and 3 combat specialists, along the revealed path. The vegetation around them defied categorization, with plants unlike anything recorded in known botanical texts. Some seemed to react to their presence, shifting subtly as they passed. "The ecosystem appears to be completely isolated from outside influence," Lyra observed, her scholar's curiosity momentarily overriding the urgency of their mission. "Possibly preserved from the Void Century itself." "Study it later," Sophia advised, though her own eyes widened at particularly spectacular specimens. "We have maybe 10 minutes before," the distant sound of combat interrupted her, confirming that their pursuers had reached the shore. "Make that 5 minutes," Ace corrected, increasing their pace. The path wound through increasingly strange terrain, stone formations that seemed to defy gravity, clearings where the vegetation formed perfect geometric patterns, streams that flowed uphill against all natural laws. Throughout, Ace felt the strange resonance growing stronger, as though the island itself was responding to their presence, or perhaps to his specifically. After 20 minutes of rapid travel, the path opened into a massive circular clearing. At its center stood a structure that defied easy description, not quite a building, not quite a natural formation. Geometric shapes of stone and metal and materials they couldn't identify interlocked in a complex arrangement that seemed to shift subtly as they approached. "The Revelation Stone," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with academic reverence. "Exactly as described in the ancient texts." At the structure's center stood a simple pedestal, and upon it rested a cube-shaped object that glowed with inner light, inscribed with symbols similar to those found on poneglyphs but more complex, more primal. "Is that?" Sophia began. "One Piece," Ace confirmed, approaching slowly. "At least part of it." As he neared the pedestal, the cube's glow intensified, reacting to his presence. The symbols began to shift and realign themselves, as if becoming readable specifically for him. Lyra moved closer, her eyes widening as she studied the changing inscriptions. "It's adjusting to the language of the observer. I've never seen anything like it. The technology required." Before she could continue her analysis, the sound of combat grew suddenly louder. Through their communication devices came Kai's tense voice, "Captain, they've broken through. Both of them, moving faster than we anticipated. 3 minutes at most. Secure positions around the clearing," Ace ordered his remaining team. "Sophia, prepare weather countermeasures against Akainu's magma. Everyone else, remember your training against Blackbeard's specific abilities." As his team moved to defensive positions, Ace approached the pedestal alone. According to everything they had learned, One Piece wasn't just treasure in the conventional sense, it was knowledge, truth, power. The secret of the Void Century. The real history of the world. The reason the world government had maintained its iron grip for centuries. The cube continued to glow brighter as he approached, the symbols shifting more rapidly. When he stood directly before it, the light suddenly concentrated into a beam that shot upward, projecting what appeared to be a holographic map of the entire world, but a world with different continental configurations, different power centers. The world as it had existed during the Void Century. Around this projection appeared text in a language that should have been incomprehensible to Ace, yet somehow he understood perfectly: the history of the ancient kingdom, its advanced civilization, its conflict with what would become the world government, its eventual fall, and the systematic erasure of its existence from history. As he absorbed this knowledge, the projection shifted to reveal more: the nature and purpose of the ancient weapons, the bloodlines that carried specific inherited traits, the reason certain families were hunted across generations, including his own. The revelation struck him with physical force. Roger hadn't just been the Pirate King. He had been a direct descendant of the ancient kingdom's royal line, a bloodline the world government had been systematically eliminating for centuries. A bloodline that carried not just political significance but biological uniqueness, a natural affinity for certain types of energy manipulation that made devil fruit powers particularly compatible. Which meant Ace himself. Before he could fully process this revelation, an explosion rocked the clearing as two figures burst through the tree line simultaneously from opposite sides: Blackbeard from the east, Akainu from the west. Fire Fist. Teach called, his voice carrying the same mocking tone Ace remembered from their confrontation years ago. Found it at last, have you? Zihahaha. Too bad you won't live to claim it. Across the clearing, Fleet Admiral Sakazuki, Akainu, advanced with implacable purpose, his uniform now bearing the insignia of absolute marine authority. The son of Roger, he stated coldly. I should have made certain of your death at Marineford. An oversight I will correct today. Ace turned from the pedestal to face his two greatest enemies, the men whose actions had shaped his journey more than any others. Behind him, One Piece continued to project its revelations into the air, visible to all present. You're both too late, he said calmly. I've already seen what Roger found. Already understood what the world government has been hiding. Blackbeard's eyes fixed on the projection, greed evident in his expression. The ancient weapons, the true map. With this, I could rule not just the seas but the entire world. Is that all you see? Ace asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. Power? Domination? Nothing about justice or truth. Truth is written by the victors, Teach replied with a dismissive wave. And I intend to be the final victor in this age of pirates. Akainu, meanwhile, had noticed the specific revelations about the world government's systematic elimination of certain bloodlines. His expression hardened further. This information cannot be allowed to spread. The stability of the world depends on it. Stability? Ace challenged. Or control? The world government has murdered entire islands to keep these secrets. Erased civilizations. Condemned innocents for the crime of existing. Necessary sacrifices for absolute justice, Akainu replied without hesitation. The alternative is chaos. As they spoke, Sophia and the defensive team had positioned themselves strategically around the clearing. Through their communication devices, Ace received updates that reinforcements from both enemy forces were approaching, while their own allied fleet continued battling at sea. Time was running short. Let's end this, Ace said, his voice carrying a certainty that gave even his enemies pause. I didn't come this far to debate philosophy. He ignited his hands, blue-white flames spiraling up his arms in patterns that mimicked the strange symbols projected by One Piece. The fire responded differently here, as though the island itself amplified his abilities or perhaps resonated with something fundamental in his bloodline. Blackbeard laughed, darkness pooling around his massive form. You couldn't defeat me before, Fire Fist. Now I possess two of the most powerful devil fruits in existence. What chance do you have? Akainu said nothing, but magma began flowing across his body, transforming him into a being of pure destructive force, the same power that had nearly killed Ace at Marineford. The three most powerful devil fruit users in the world faced each other in a triangle around the ancient pedestal, each representing a fundamentally different vision of what the final truth of One Piece should mean for the world. Ace struck first, not with a direct attack but by igniting the very air around them, creating a swirling vortex of flame that separated the combatants from the Revelation Stone. Within this firestorm, he could move freely while limiting his enemy's visibility and mobility. Blackbeard countered by creating pools of absolute darkness that absorbed portions of the flames, while Akainu simply walked through the fire, his magma form impervious to heat. The battle escalated rapidly, powers clashing with devastating force. Blackbeard's darkness pulled at Ace's flames, trying to negate his devil fruit abilities, while simultaneously generating quake effects that shattered the ground beneath their feet. Akainu launched magma projectiles that could melt stone on contact, each aimed with lethal precision. Ace responded with techniques he'd perfected over 5 years of preparation for exactly this confrontation. Against Blackbeard's darkness, he deployed flames that burned so intensely they created their own light, temporarily neutralizing the absorption effect. Against Akainu's magma, he used precision heat control to alter the cooling rates of the projected material, causing it to solidify prematurely. "You've improved, brat," Akainu acknowledged as one of his attacks failed to connect. "But your flames still can't overcome magma's superior heat." "Heat isn't everything," Ace replied, demonstrating by creating a series of flame constructs that operated independently of his direct control, fiery duplicates that attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Blackbeard, meanwhile, had worked his way closer to the pedestal, his eyes never leaving the projected information about the ancient weapons. The Pluton blueprints, the activation sequence for Poseidon, with these, no force on Earth could stand against me. "You still don't understand what One Piece really is," Ace called to him, even as he dodged another of Akainu's attacks. "It's not just weapons or power. It's truth, a truth that changes everything about how we see the world. Truth is meaningless without the strength to enforce it." Teach retorted, sending a quake-enhanced attack that nearly caught Ace off guard. The battle continued with increasing intensity, the clearing transformed into a chaotic arena of fire, darkness, and molten rock. Sophia's team provided crucial support, using weather manipulation to create localized conditions that favored Ace while hindering his opponents, but they were gradually forced to retreat as the sheer destructive potential of the three devil fruit users made close proximity suicidal. Despite his preparation, Ace found himself gradually pushed to his limits. Blackbeard's dual devil fruit powers created combinations that required constant adaptation to counter, while Akainu's relentless precision meant even a momentary lapse in concentration could prove fatal. After a particularly intense exchange left a crater in the center of the clearing, the combatants separated briefly, assessing each other across the devastated landscape. Ace felt the strain of prolonged high-level power usage, the strange burning sensation beneath his skin intensifying. The flame-like markings on his arms glowed through his clothing, no longer just surface patterns but manifestations of something changing within his body. "You're burning yourself out," Akainu observed clinically. "These advanced techniques are consuming you from within. A foolish sacrifice." "Some things are worth burning for," Ace replied, thinking of everyone who had fought alongside him to reach this point, his crew, his allies, his brothers. Blackbeard, seeing an opportunity in Ace's apparent fatigue, launched a combined attack, darkness that pulled Ace forward while simultaneously generating a localized quake that shattered the ground beneath him. The strategy nearly succeeded, but Ace countered with a technique he'd been saving, complete molecular combustion of his physical form, transforming temporarily into pure fire energy that could neither be grabbed by darkness nor affected by physical terrain changes. When he reformed, however, the toll was evident. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, and the flame markings on his skin burned brighter than ever. "Captain!" Sophia called from her position at the clearing's edge. "Reinforcements approaching from the shore. It's Luffy's group." The news came at the perfect moment. Ace had known from the beginning that facing both Blackbeard and Akainu simultaneously would require precise timing and, ultimately, the support of his brother. Hold them just a little longer, he heard Luffy's voice through the communication device. We're almost there. Gathering his remaining strength, Ace prepared for one final offensive. He reached into the specialized equipment pouch Rishi had provided, extracting and quickly consuming the stabilizing compounds the doctor had prepared. The effect was immediate, a temporary cessation of the burning sensation, replaced by a surge of controlled power. What's this? Blackbeard mocked, seeing him consume the medicine. Need drugs to keep fighting, Fire Fist. No, Ace replied calmly. Just ensuring I'm at my best for what comes next. With that, he executed the technique he'd been developing for 5 years, a true awakening of the Mera Mera no Mi that transcended conventional understanding of devil fruit powers. The flames that erupted from his body were unlike anything he'd manifested before, not just heat and light, but something that seemed to burn at the fundamental level of reality itself. The fire spread across the clearing not as a wave of destruction but as a transformative force, altering the very nature of everything it touched. The ground beneath Blackbeard transformed into a substance that negated his darkness absorption, while the air around Akaina shifted to a composition that caused his magma to cool rapidly upon contact. More remarkably, the flames seemed to interact directly with the Revelation Stone, causing the projected information to stabilize and expand, becoming more comprehensive. What is this? Akaina demanded, genuine uncertainty in his voice for perhaps the first time in their long conflict. True fire, Ace answered simply. Not just destruction, transformation. The real power of my devil fruit. Blackbeard, momentarily unable to use his darkness effectively, resorted to pure quake power, sending shockwaves that threatened to tear the island apart. If I can't have one piece, no one will. As the three continued their devastating battle, the clearing suddenly filled with new arrivals, Luffy leading a group of his core crew members, having fought their way from the shore. With him came Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei, and Robin, all showing signs of hard combat but still ready to fight. Ace! Luffy shouted, immediately assessing the situation and launching himself toward Blackbeard without hesitation. The arrival of the Straw Hat Captain fundamentally changed the dynamic of the battle. While Ace maintained his focus on Akainu, the man who had nearly killed him at Marineford, Luffy engaged Blackbeard directly, his advanced Haki abilities proving remarkably effective against Teach's dual devil fruit powers. Should have known you brothers would find a way to fight together again, Akainu growled, concentrating his attack solely on Ace now that Blackbeard was occupied. We learned from last time, Ace replied, deflecting a magma fist with a precisely controlled flame barrier. No more solo heroics. No more unnecessary sacrifices. Around them, the battle expanded as more combatants joined from both sides. Marines loyal to Akainu clashed with members of both pirate crews. Sophia coordinated with Nami to create weather conditions that favored their allies while hindering their enemies. Robin and Lyra worked together to secure the Revelation Stone and its continuing projections, recognizing its historical importance transcended the immediate battle. Through it all, Ace maintained his awakened state, the transformed fire continuing to alter the battlefield in subtle but crucial ways. Each minute that passed, however, increased the strain on his body. The stabilizing compounds could only delay the inevitable consequences of pushing his powers so far beyond their natural limits. The battle reached its climax when Blackbeard, increasingly desperate as Luffy's relentless assault pushed him back, attempted to use his quake powers to destabilize the entire island. If I can't have the ancient weapons, I'll sink this accursed place with all of you on it, he roared, channeling destructive energy directly into the ground. The effect was immediate and catastrophic, fissures opening across the clearing, the very foundation of the island seeming to shudder in protest. But as the tremors intensified, something unexpected occurred. The Revelation Stone's projections suddenly expanded dramatically, enveloping the entire area in a dome of light and information. Within this dome, new projections appeared, not just history and maps, but what appeared to be the consciousness of the ancient kingdom itself, preserved somehow through technology beyond their current understanding. A voice spoke, not in words exactly, but in concepts that translated themselves directly into comprehension within the minds of all present. The worthy have returned. The trial of conflict has been observed. The truth must now be entrusted. The light intensified, focusing specifically on Ace and Luffy, scanning them with energy that seemed to analyze something fundamental in their very being. Descendants of D, inheritors of the will that could not be broken. The truth is yours to reveal or conceal. Choose wisely, for either path brings consequence. Blackbeard, seeing the light concentrate around the brothers, made one final desperate lunge toward the pedestal. The power belongs to me. I've sacrificed everything for this moment. But as he approached, the light rejected him violently, repelling him with force that sent him crashing into the trees at the clearing's edge. Akainu, recognizing what was happening, attempted a similar approach with identical results. The brothers stood alone at the center of the phenomenon, the culmination of their separate journeys converging in this singular moment. The projection continued, showing them the final truth, the real reason the world government had erased the void century from history, the true nature of the will of D, and the choice that now lay before them. The ancient kingdom wasn't destroyed because of its weapons, Luffy said softly, absorbing the revelation. It was destroyed because it discovered something about the nature of the world itself, something that would give people true freedom. Freedom from control, Ace agreed, understanding flowing between them. From the systems that keep power concentrated in the hands of a few. The world government isn't just an organization, it's the antithesis of what the ancient kingdom discovered. The projections showed them the final piece, that one piece wasn't a physical treasure at all, but a method of awakening something dormant within the world itself. Something that would fundamentally change how people lived, how they interacted with their environment, how they governed themselves. No wonder they were willing to erase an entire civilization to prevent this knowledge from spreading, Ace murmured. The choice remains. Reveal or conceal. Freedom with chaos, or control with order. The brothers exchanged a glance, years of shared history and separate journeys culminating in this moment of decision. Around them, their allies watched in silent anticipation, while their enemies struggled against the force that held them at bay. It was never really a choice, Luffy said with his characteristic grin. Not for us. Ace nodded, sharing his brother's certainty. Freedom. Always freedom. Together, they placed their hands on the revelation stone, confirming their decision. The effect was immediate and world-changing. The projection shot skyward, breaking through the dome of light and expanding outward in all directions, a pulse of information that would travel across the entire globe, revealing the truth to everyone simultaneously. As the pulse expanded, the island itself began to transform. The strange vegetation grew more vibrant. The air seemed to fill with energy. And at the center, the revelation stone changed from a simple cube to a complex mechanism that began to sink into the ground, its purpose apparently fulfilled. With the activation complete, the force holding their enemies at bay dissipated. Blackbeard, seeing his opportunity for absolute power slipping away, roared in fury and channeled his quake power for one devastating attack directed at the brothers. If I can't have it, neither will you. The attack never connected. Ace moved with speed born of 5 years' preparation for exactly this moment, intercepting the quake energy with his awakened flames. Rather than trying to overpower it, an impossible task against the Gura Gura no Mi's raw destructive potential, he transformed it, altering its fundamental properties to redirect it harmlessly into the sky. It's over, Teach, he said, advancing on his longtime nemesis. You lost the moment you saw One Piece as nothing but power. Blackbeard, desperation replacing his usual confidence, gathered darkness around himself. It's never over. There are other ancient weapons, other secrets. I'll find them all. Not today, came Luffy's voice as he appeared beside his brother. And not tomorrow either. Together, the brothers launched a coordinated attack that embodied their years of separate development, Luffy's advanced haki combined with Ace's awakened flames, creating a combination that even Blackbeard's dual devil fruit powers couldn't counter. The impact sent Teach crashing to the ground, defeated but alive. Finish it, Teach growled, blood trickling from his mouth. That's what pirates do. I'm not just any pirate, Ace replied. I'm the next pirate king. And I decide what that means. Before anyone could respond, Akainu made his final move, a massive magma attack directed not at the brothers but at the Revelation Stone itself, attempting to destroy the source of the world-changing pulse before it could complete its transmission. Absolute justice requires absolute measures, the fleet admiral declared as magma surged forward. Ace intercepted the attack, placing himself directly in its path, a mirror image of Marineford, but with crucial differences. This time, he was prepared. This time, he understood his own powers completely. This time, he wasn't sacrificing himself but protecting something far more important than his own life. The magma struck his awakened flame barrier and stopped, unable to penetrate the transformed fire that now burned at a level beyond even magma's extreme heat. For a moment, the two forces, destruction and transformation, balanced perfectly against each other. Impossible, Akainu stated, genuine shock breaking through his composed exterior. Fire cannot overcome magma. It's a fundamental law. I'm rewriting that law, Ace replied, the flame markings on his skin now covering his entire body, burning so brightly they were visible even through his clothing. Just like One Piece is rewriting the laws of this world. With a final surge of power that drew on everything he had left, Ace pushed back Akainu's attack, transforming the magma itself into something new, neither solid nor liquid, but a crystalline substance that cooled rapidly in the air. The effort nearly destroyed him. As Akainu's attack dissipated, Ace collapsed to his knees, blood flowing freely from his nose and mouth. The flame markings on his skin pulsed erratically, no longer following the rhythm of his heartbeat. Ace. Luffy was at his side instantly, supporting his brother. What's happening to you? The price, Ace managed through gritted teeth. For pushing beyond limits. Worth it though. Around them, the battle had largely ceased as both allies and enemies watched the pulse of information expanding beyond the island, visible now as a shimmering wave traversing the sky in all directions. Whatever happened next, the world was already changing irreversibly. Rishi pushed through the gathered combatants, medical kit in hand. Let me see him, the doctor demanded, already extracting specialized treatments. As the doctor worked, Sophia coordinated with the rest of their forces to secure the clearing. Akainu, recognizing that the immediate objective was lost, ordered a tactical withdrawal of marine forces. Blackbeard, temporarily incapacitated by the brothers' combined attack, was taken into custody by Luffy's crew. The stabilizing compounds can only do so much, Rishi informed Luffy gravely after examining Ace. The cellular degradation from prolonged awakening is accelerating. We need to get him to a proper medical facility immediately. No, Ace said, strength returning to his voice as the initial treatments took effect. Not until it's finished. Not until we complete what we came for. Despite Rishi's protests, Ace insisted on remaining at the center of the clearing as the pulse completed its global journey. When the last of the information had been transmitted, the Revelation Stone fully retracted into the ground, leaving only a simple marker in its place, a circular platform inscribed with the symbol of the ancient kingdom. It's done, Lyra confirmed, monitoring specialized equipment that tracked the information pulse. The truth has been shared with the entire world simultaneously. The void century is void no more. Ace nodded, satisfaction visible despite his physical condition. Now we can go. As his allies prepared to transport him back to their vessels, a final unexpected development occurred. The marker where the Revelation Stone had stood began to glow, and from it emerged a projection unlike the historical records. This one appeared to be a message left specifically for whoever would ultimately claim One Piece. The projection coalesced into the image of a man instantly recognizable to both brothers, Gold, Roger himself, preserved somehow at the moment of his discovery years ago. To whoever finds this place after me, the projection began, Roger's distinctive grin exactly as history had recorded it, congratulations. You've done what few believed possible. You've discovered the truth the world tried to bury. The brothers stared in astonishment at this message from the past, Ace looking upon the father he had never known, Luffy seeing the man whose title he had chased for so long. If you're seeing this, you've made the choice to reveal rather than conceal. Good. That's what this world needs, truth, no matter how difficult. But truth alone isn't enough. What matters is what you build with it. Roger's projection seemed to look directly at them, though of course he couldn't have known who would ultimately stand in that spot. The title of Pirate King isn't just about finding this place or knowing these secrets. It's about having the vision to create something new from what you've discovered. That's the real challenge that awaits you now. The projection began to fade, its message nearly complete. One more thing, Roger's voice continued, growing fainter. Whatever blood flows in your veins, whatever name you carry, you are defined by your choices, not your inheritance. Remember that in the days ahead. As the projection vanished completely, Ace stared at the empty space where his father's image had stood. The message seemed almost personally directed at him, though logically he knew Roger couldn't have anticipated his own son would one day stand in this place. He knew, Ace said softly. Somehow, he knew it would be someone carrying his bloodline. Luffy placed a hand on his brother's shoulder. He would have been proud, you know. Of both of us, but especially you. Before Ace could respond, his condition deteriorated suddenly. The flame markings on his skin flared painfully, and he collapsed fully into his brother's arms. We need to move now. Rishi urged with uncharacteristic force. His body can't sustain this level of power expenditure any longer. The journey back to their ships passed in a blur for Ace, consciousness coming and going as his allies transported him through the island's transformed landscape. By the time they reached the shore, the combined fleet had largely secured victory in the massive naval battle, though at significant cost. Many vessels burned on the horizon, while others listed heavily, damaged but still afloat. Aboard the Inferno Queen's advanced medical bay, Rishi worked frantically with his team to stabilize Ace's condition. The diagnosis was grim but not hopeless. The awakened state had accelerated certain biological processes beyond sustainable levels, essentially burning through his life force at an exponential rate. Can you reverse it? Sophia asked, her usual composure cracking with concern. Not reverse, no, Rishi replied honestly. But I believe we can halt the progression. With time and proper treatment, he may even recover a portion of what he's lost. How much time? The doctor hesitated. If the treatments work as hoped, years rather than months. But he'll never regain the full lifespan he would have had otherwise. And he'll never be able to use those advanced techniques again without risking immediate collapse. Sophia absorbed this information with the gravity it deserved. Does he know? Yes. He understood the risks before we even set out for Laugh Tale. It's why he pushed so hard to reach this point while he still could. In the days that followed, as they sailed away from Laugh Tale and the aftermath of what was already being called the War of Revelation, news poured in from across the world. The pulse of information had reached every corner of the globe simultaneously, revealing the truth of the Void Century to all people regardless of status or allegiance. The impact was immediate and transformative. On some islands, citizens rose up against world government representatives. On others, formerly opposing factions united under new banners. Marine bases reported mass desertions as officers and enlisted personnel alike questioned the justice they had been enforcing. The world government itself appeared to be fracturing, with several of the 20 kingdoms that formed its foundation publicly withdrawing their support. The celestial dragons retreated to Mary Geos, their authority crumbling as the truth about their ancestors' actions spread throughout the populations they had ruled for centuries. Throughout this global upheaval, Ace remained in treatment aboard the Inferno Queen, his condition stabilizing but recovery proceeding slowly. Luffy stayed at his side whenever possible, the brothers finally having the time together that Marineford had nearly permanently denied them. 1 month after the events at Laugh Tale, as the Inferno Queen sailed toward a neutral medical facility where Ace could receive more specialized treatment, news arrived that would permanently alter the political landscape of their world. the Revolutionary Army, seizing the opportunity presented by the global revelations, had successfully occupied Mare Geos. The celestial dragon's rule, maintained for centuries through secrecy and oppression, had effectively ended. Ace received this news from his bed, where he sat propped up reviewing reports from across his territories. Though still weakened, his condition had improved enough for limited activity. "So your other brother toppled the world government," he remarked to Luffy, who lounged in a chair nearby. "Your family doesn't do anything halfway, does it?" Luffy grinned. "Sabo just finished what we started. The truth did most of the work." "And what happens now? With the world in chaos and no central authority?" "Something new," Luffy replied with surprising insight. "Different places will find different answers. That's what freedom means, right? Not everyone doing the same thing, but everyone choosing for themselves." Ace nodded thoughtfully. "And us? What does a pirate king do in a world where piracy itself might become obsolete?" "Whatever we want," Luffy answered simply. "That's also what freedom means." The conversation was interrupted by Sophia's arrival. "Message from Maiden's Heart," she reported. "The territorial representatives have assembled as requested. They're awaiting your address." Ace nodded. "Help me up. I've been in this bed too long already." Despite Rishi's protests, Ace insisted on delivering his message personally from the ship's communication center rather than from his sickbed. With Sophia and Luffy's support, he made his way to the specialized broadcast room where transponder snails connected to all territories under the Spade Dominion's protection. Settled in the communication chair, Ace took a moment to gather his thoughts before activating the broadcast. His appearance had changed dramatically since Laugh Tale, thinner, with the flame markings now permanently etched on his skin like living tattoos that pulsed faintly with his heartbeat. But his eyes remained clear and determined, his voice strong despite his physical condition. "People of the Spade Dominion," he began, his words transmitted simultaneously to dozens of islands across the New World. "By now you've witnessed the revelations that have transformed our world. You know the truth about the Void Century, about the Ancient Kingdom, about the systems of control that have shaped our lives for centuries." He paused, looking directly into the primary transponder snail's receptive eyes. "What you may not know is that this revelation was the true nature of One Piece, the treasure sought by pirates for generations. Not gold or weapons or conventional power, but truth itself. The power to choose with full knowledge of our past and potential future." Around him, his core crew members listened with solemn attention. This broadcast would effectively announce Ace's claim to the title of Pirate King, the first formal acknowledgement since the events at Laugh Tale. "As the one who unlocked this truth alongside my brother Monkey D. Luffy, I could claim the title of Pirate King by right of discovery. Many already use this title in reference to me. But titles mean nothing without purpose." He leaned forward slightly, emphasizing his next words. "So let me be clear about my purpose. The protection I offered when I first claimed these territories remains unchanged. But now, with the world government fracturing and new powers emerging, that protection comes with a choice. Each island under the Spade Dominion's flag may now determine its own governance, its own laws, its own relationships with other territories." This declaration, effectively granting autonomy to territories that most conquerors would tighten control over during chaotic times, caused murmurs of surprise even among his own crew. "My role is not to rule you, but to ensure your freedom to rule yourselves. To protect you from those who would impose their will through force. To help establish trade, communication, and mutual defense among willing partners. In short, to create a network of free territories rather than an empire under a single flag." He paused, allowing the implications to sink in. "This is what I believe the title of Pirate King should mean in this new era, not a ruler of the seas, but a guardian of the freedom to chart your own course. Those who wish to remain under the Spade Dominion's protection under these terms are welcome. Those who wish to sail independently will receive our assistance in establishing their defenses before we depart. The broadcast continued for several minutes as Ace outlined specific procedures for territorial representatives to communicate their choices and establish new governance systems. Throughout, he emphasized voluntary association rather than forced allegiance, a radical departure from how power had traditionally operated in the pirate world. As the transmission concluded, Sophia studied him with renewed respect. Not exactly the traditional declaration of a pirate king claiming his title. Traditional approaches led to the world we just helped overturn, Ace replied, fatigue evident in his voice but satisfaction in his eyes. Time for something different. In the weeks that followed, as news of Ace's declaration spread throughout the pirate world, responses varied dramatically. Some dismissed it as weakness from a man whose power had been compromised by his injuries. Others recognized it as perhaps the most revolutionary approach to power since Roger's own era. Most significantly, not a single territory under the Spade Dominion's protection chose to separate completely. Instead, they embraced the offered autonomy while maintaining their alliance with the man now widely acknowledged as the Pirate King, not through formal coronation or official title, but through the recognition of both allies and enemies that Ace had fundamentally changed what the title itself meant. 3 months after the events at Laugh Tale, with his condition stabilized though permanently altered, Ace made a pilgrimage he had long planned. With a small group consisting only of Sophia, Rishi, and Marco, who had rejoined them after years of separate journeys, he visited the grave of Edward Newgate. The site remained as he remembered it, the massive bicentennial marking the final resting place of the man who had been more father to him than anyone. But now the surrounding area had changed, with a memorial garden maintained by former Whitebeard pirates and inhabitants of protected territories. As the others waited respectfully at a distance, Ace approached the grave alone. The flame markings on his skin pulsed steadily as he knelt before the monument, placing a bottle of fine sake as an offering. "I found it, old man," he said quietly. "Found one piece. Became Pirate King. But not the way anyone expected, not even me." The wind rustled through the memorial garden, carrying the scent of the sea. "You were right about what the world needed. Not just strength, but family. Not just power, but purpose." Ace smiled slightly. "I'm trying to build something that would make you proud. Something that protects freedom rather than controls it." He poured 2 cups of sake, one for Whitebeard and one for himself. "The doctors say I burned through years of my life with those final techniques. That even with treatment, I've got maybe a decade left at best." He shrugged philosophically. "But that's a decade more than I had at Marineford. A decade to build something lasting." After sharing the ceremonial drink, Ace remained in silent communion with his adopted father's memory. When he finally rose, Marco was waiting nearby, having approached silently as only the Phoenix could. "He would be proud, Yua," the former 1st Division commander said simply. "Of what you found and what you chose to do with it." Ace nodded, accepting the assessment from the man who had perhaps known Whitebeard best. "And you? No regrets about saving me that day?" Marco smiled, the expression softening his normally lazy-looking features. "Never. Though watching you nearly kill yourself with those flame techniques did give me a few gray feathers." They walked together to rejoin the others, the Pirate King and the Phoenix, 2 survivors who had helped shape the new era in their own distinct ways. "What now?" Marco asked as they neared Sophia and Rishi. "The world's changing faster than anyone can track. New alliances forming daily. The Marines reorganizing under new leadership after Akainu's defeat. Now we build," Ace replied with quiet certainty. "While the world finds its new shape, we create something that protects the freedom to choose, whether you're a small island nation or a former kingdom or just a crew looking for somewhere to belong." He glanced back at Whitebeard's grave once more, then forward to where his closest companions waited, Sophia, whose quiet strength had become as essential to him as his own fire, Rishi, whose medical brilliance had saved him not once but many times over, Marco, whose initial act of salvation had made everything else possible. "The Pirate King isn't just one person," Ace continued thoughtfully. "It's an idea. A vision of what freedom can mean. Roger understood that. So did Whitebeard in his own way. Now it's our turn to define it for a new generation. As they returned to the Inferno Queen, news arrived of Luffy's latest adventure. His fleet had liberated another former world government stronghold, continuing the transformation that had begun at Laugh Tale. The brothers maintained separate operations but aligned purposes, each contributing to the new world in their own distinctive style. Standing on the deck of his flagship as they prepared to depart, Ace looked out at the horizon, the endless sea that had nearly claimed him once, that had carried him to both defeat and ultimate victory, that now spread before him with possibilities as vast as the sky above. The flame markings on his skin pulsed with his heartbeat, a constant reminder of both his mortality and his survival. The fire that had defined him had nearly consumed him in the end, yet it had also forged him into something new, not just Portgas Ace, not just the son of Roger, not just a former Whitebeard commander, but a pirate king who had redefined what the title itself meant. "Where to next, Captain?" Sophia asked, joining him at the railing. Ace smiled, watching as the setting sun painted the waves in shades of gold and crimson. "Everywhere," he replied. "We have a world to help rebuild." The Inferno Queen set sail into the deepening twilight, carrying its transformed captain toward whatever adventures remained in his shortened but purposeful life. Behind them, Whitebeard's monument stood against the darkening sky, a reminder of legacy and inheritance, of fathers and sons, of the choices that defined a person beyond their bloodline or their fate. And somewhere, in the endless sea that connected all lands and all peoples, the truth of One Piece continued to reshape the world, not through conquest or control, but through the freedom to choose what came next. The crown of fire had found its rightful bearer. The age of revelation had begun. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.